When we say to farmers that you're going to have $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in your pockets before Christmas, we mean exactly that.
On midnight, October 21, this tax will be gone.
Quite frankly, I think that they are thieves and bandits. This province is bankrupt.
Good evening. It's 5 years, almost to the day, since the last provincial election in Saskatchewan. That's the longest wait between elections since World War II. Well, tonight the wait is over, and we're in for an exciting evening. If the polls and the analysts are right, this could be the end of Grant Devine's Conservatives. That will depend on whether or not Roy Romano and the NDP can become more than just Saskatchewan's urban party. And what about the Liberals? After 20 years, will we finally see a political resurrection under the leadership of Linda Haverstock? All of those questions will be answered very soon. And the answer may be found in the balance of power held by a mere couple of thousand voters. Maybe you're one of them. We'll explain that a little bit later to you people at home and the people who've come down to the CBC Broadcast Centre to watch history in the making. And if you're in the Regina area, it's not too late to stop by. We'd like to have you join us. We have gathered some of the best journalists and analysts in the province together to provide the most in-depth coverage of Election 91. No one will be more accurate. We're not only going to tell you who won, but we want you to understand why they won. To help us do that, David Smith, political scientist from the University of Saskatchewan, is with me in the studio. And David, as Premier Grant Devine campaigned throughout this province, he acknowledged a mood for change. How much of a change do you think there'll be?
I think if the polls are at all accurate, we're going to see quite a bit of change. Change to the NDP, change to the Liberals, and probably change away from the governing Progressive Conservative Party, but we'll have to wait till later in this evening to determine how much.
That makes for an exciting evening.
I think it will.
In Estevan tonight at Premier Grant Devine's campaign headquarters, Saskatchewan's most influential print journalist, Dale Eisler. Dale, what will be the key to watch as the results come in tonight?
Holly, I think there are two keys that viewers should keep their attention focused on. One is the Yorkton region. There are 6 seats up there that traditionally had been NDP until 1982. In the Tory sweep of that year, the Conservatives won all 6 seats. They regained them again in 1986. The NDP has to win those seats back if they want to form government. Indeed, if they do win them back, I think they will form government. Secondly, there's the riding of Last Mountain Touchwood, which is just north of Regina. This is a bellwether riding. It has voted for the government in every election since 1944, so I think we should keep our eyes closely on that riding to see how it goes.
All right, we'll do that. Thank you, Dale, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the night. There's going to be a lot of excitement here and a lot of excitement all around this province, and we'll be there. Cheryl Jackson is in Saskatoon, and Cheryl, you'll be keeping an eye on the races in that city and the north.
That's right, Holly. The NDP won all but 2 Saskatoon seats in the last election. Holding their urban power base here and in Regina will be a key to this election. But the party could have a tough fight, especially in Saskatoon-Greystone. New Democrat Peter Preble is up against Linda Haverstock, leader of the Liberal Party. Art Jones is at Linda Haverstock's headquarters. He's covered that campaign from the beginning, a campaign that went a lot better than many people expected. And of course, the other big story here tonight is in Saskatoon-Riversdale. NDP leader Roy Romano will be trying to end almost a decade of PC government. Nancy Rose has followed that campaign, and she's here tonight to cover what a lot of NDP supporters hope will be a victory party. Holly.
Thank you, Cheryl. There are a few Conservatives in Estevan who are also looking for a party tonight. Alethea Foster is at Grant Devine's headquarters, and she'll have the story from there. Whether or not there's a party in Estevan depends on how the Conservatives do in rural Saskatchewan. Dean Goutal is in Yorkton to see if the Tories can get that farm vote one more time. Dean?
Well, Holly, we're right in the middle of what could be the 6th most important seats in this election campaign. These are swing ridings. In the 70s, the vote swung toward the NDP, and the NDP formed government. But in the 80s, the vote swung in favor of the Tories, and the Tories formed the government. Now, the NDP believe if they can get 3 of the 6 rural seats here, they can win. Holly.
Another place for us to watch tonight. Thanks, Dean. We'll also be checking in with our special election panel and Costa Marigas. Costa.
Holly, thank you. Let me introduce the panel to you. Closest to me is Lorne Nystrom. He is the NDP MP for Yorkton Melville. Welcome to our panel, Lorne. Joining us also on the panel is Ken Washtuck, a Tory strategist here in the province. And also representing the Liberal camp is Bob Crow, who is the past president of the Liberal Party of Saskatchewan. Gentlemen, quickly, I want predictions from you now on how the night is going to unfold. Let me start with you, Bob Crow. What is your prediction for tonight's election?
Thanks very much. I'll tell you right now, we're looking for Liberal breakthroughs in the old Liberal L as well as some urban ridings.
What are some numbers? How good do you think the Liberals will do?
Well, it just depends on how that undecided is breaking out. At this point, I can tell you that our strategy has been to cover both urban areas and
okay, you're looking
areas.
At 5, 10?
We'd be very happy with 5.
Happy with 5. Okay, Ken Washtuck, your prediction.
In 1986, the NDP and the Tories each had about 45% of the vote, the Liberals 10. I think the NDP will get about the same in that range. How about the Tories? I think the Tories will probably slip back a bit, the Liberals come up. How much is up to that last 20% or so who are undecided?
Lorne Nystrom.
I think we're going to see a pretty major NDP victory tonight. Be an increase in the popular vote for the NDP, an increase in the popular vote for the Liberal Party.
Where are the Tories going to be standing at the end of the night, do you think?
I think
second or third?
They'll be in second place, I believe.
Okay.
I think we'll go over 50 seats. My guess is around the 54-seat mark. The Tories with around 10 seats, the Liberals with 2 or 3.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you, gentlemen. Holly?
Thank you, Costa and panel. To get an even broader perspective on this story, we'll be going to the Saskatoon Star-Phoenix throughout the evening for a preview of tomorrow's headlines tonight. And we'll even take a look at the lighter side of politics with editorial cartoonist Ed Sebastian and his unique perspective. And what about the people that really matter tonight, the voters? 630,000 people are eligible to vote in this election, and if past elections are any indication, at least 80% of the eligible voters will get out to a poll. Even though it wasn't the greatest day to be outside, a lot of people did manage to make it to the booth. What that means is that we have a lot of counting to do over the next few hours. And we think we have the best counters in the business. A sophisticated computer system will bring us the results fast. Of all the numbers we're going to see tonight, perhaps the most important number of all is 34. David Smith, what is magical about 34 for us?
Well, what's magical about it is in the new legislature, there'll be 66 seats, 2 more than the last legislature. You need 34 to have an absolute majority with 66 seats. Presumably any government, any party forming a government would like to have a bit more cushion than 34, but 34 is the magic number. We'll see later tonight whether any party makes that.
34 will do it, and we'll count up to that. Okay, to see how close we are to reaching that number, we have what we call a mini board, and by looking at your television screen now, you can get an overview of what's happening in the province. The mini board gives the total number of elected and leading candidates. It's up to the second, so you'll often see it change as new results come in. To reach that magic number, the NDP has to convince a few people to change their minds, but not as many as you might expect. The Liberals, on the other hand, have a lot more work to do. There are close to 1 million people in this province, but as we mentioned earlier, the balance of power literally could rest in the hands of fewer than 2,000 key voters. In the last election, the PCs won a majority with 38 seats. The NDP had 25, the Liberals took 1 seat. That means the difference between an NDP majority and a PC majority in the last election was only 7 seats. And there were a lot of very tight races, including 7 ridings, which the Tories won by 3% or less. We'll take a look at what those ridings are. Pelly, Canistano, Assiniboia, Gravelbourg, Yorkton, Regina-Wascana Plains, Last Mountain, Touchwood, and Salt Coats. All right, despite the number of seats, the NDP actually got more votes. Here's how that broke down. The NDP in total vote or popular vote took 45% of the vote in Saskatchewan in 1986. The Progressive Conservatives took 44%, and the Liberals nearly 10%. So Dale Eisler, even a small change in the popular vote could mean a huge difference in the final outcome.
That's right, Holly. I think a lot of people thought that the last election was a more decisive win for the Conservatives. They did have a comfortable majority, but the fact of the matter was that they won some close races in rural Saskatchewan, and we don't have to see a big shift in the vote tonight, particularly in rural areas, for some of those seats to change hands. That's why Grant Devine's rural campaign has been so crucial for the last month. He's focused all his attention on rural Saskatchewan. This is the area of the province that he's got to hold. He knows that. He says it. If he does that, he can win government again. If he doesn't hold rural Saskatchewan, is lost.
All right. So the NDP need to take 7 more seats than they held last time, 7 from the Tories. Popular vote, they also need between 40 and 42%, Dale, but that's if this is a 3-way race.
Well, that's right. I mean, what we have to watch here tonight is the Liberal vote. If the Liberals come up, as many people anticipate they will, it's logical to assume that that vote will come from the Conservative ranks, at least initially. And if that happens, then the NDP can start winning seats with a lower percentage of the vote, in fact. I mean, there is a scenario that is possible tonight where the NDP vote would actually decline from where it was in 1986, and they win far more seats simply because the Liberal vote has come up. The question, of course, is where is that Liberal vote going to come from? The Conservatives are saying the Liberals are taking support from the NDP in rural Saskatchewan, but they're not hurting them in in urban Saskatchewan, but they're not hurting the Conservatives in rural Saskatchewan. If that happens, then the Conservatives could win this election.
Thank you, Dale. It's important that we understand that, but we do have our very first result tonight. We're going to Coppell Lumsden for that. And David Smith, this was a seat that has been a Tory seat. Gary Lane's riding for the last 3 elections, and we see that his successor, Martin Kenny, is ahead at this early point.
Yes, well, you know, one poll reporting, but it is nonetheless, I suppose, significant that the Conservatives are still in the lead and that it would appear the Conservatives are favored.
All right, as we look at our next result, I want to explain these riding boards that people are going to see throughout the evening. You'll see, as an example, here in Regina Dudney, this is what's happening. Ed Tershowski is leading in that seat for the NDP at the top. The red band there is Bob Newman, the Liberal candidate, and Warren Rhodes, the Tory, is behind. But I want people to be familiar with what that looks like, because we're going to spend a lot of time with these, David.
Oh, yes, right. I mean, right there, the Liberals are running second, but with only 3.
Here's an important seat. The finance minister's down in Weyburn. Lauren Hepworth ahead at this point. 1 of 47 polls reporting, and he's not ahead. I'm misreading that. It's tied with Ron Wormsbecker, the NDP candidate. So we will be looking at these boards as we go throughout the evening, David, and some of them, of course, will be those key ridings held by Tory cabinet ministers like Hepworth.
That's right. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see how the cabinet ministers do. A number of cabinet ministers are not running, some are running, and of course, if the government is unpopular with the voters, one would presume that the cabinet ministers would suffer the same fate as other Tory candidates, but we'll have to see.
Okay, early results are something to get rather excited about. It's our first look at some numbers. We'll see on the mini board at the bottom of this screen. At this point, the Conservatives are leading in 2, the NDP 1, and the Liberals yet to be there.
Yeah, and for the benefit of the audience, and the audience can see that the numbers are moving from the right-hand side of the screen to the left, right? So that we have reports coming in the colored boxes, and the number down from 66 to 63 in the black box.
Okay, and that's what we call our mini board. We also have something that's called an election flash that we want you to be familiar with throughout the evening. And when you see at the bottom of your screen, as you see now, an example only of Estevan, Tory Blue, Grant Devine elected. Well, he may take some heart if he's watching and seeing that. This hasn't happened yet, perhaps it will, but that is just an example. As well, if you see the word gain at the bottom of the screen there, when you see this name, you'll know that that's a seat that was taken from another party the last time.
Right.
So those are things that we want our viewers to be familiar with. That's the way we're going to not only talk about the election, but show you what's happening here. All right. You're watching CBC. You're watching Election 91 on CBC Saskatchewan. And David, we want to talk a little bit more about the Liberal vote, although we're not seeing it yet here. The Liberals could be the spoiler this time, as they played a substantial role in BC just last week.
Yes, they could be a spoiler, and that, of course, was what Mr. Devine was warning voters against doing, and that is giving their vote to the Liberals and making it impossible for Conservatives to be elected. Whether or not the Liberals in Saskatchewan can repeat what happened in British Columbia will remain to be seen. I rather think that's doubtful myself, because I think that the the Liberal vote in this province is probably widely spread but rather thin. I could be proved wrong. We'll see at the end of the evening. I think in the case of British Columbia also, you had a party extremely unpopular and without a strong party, another strong party, traditional party in the province.
A point we should make just briefly now, David, is that there is a plebiscite this time, 3 plebiscite questions actually. The people of this province have an opportunity to voice their opinions on them. What that means to us in terms of getting results to people is that the count may be a little slower. We expect
yes, I understand that in some or maybe all, although I didn't think so in my own constituency or poll, that all of the ballots are put in a common box and therefore they have to be separated before the count. And in fact, the plebiscite count will not be given tonight. It's only the count for the candidates.
Wait for tomorrow for that. Okay. Right. You're watching Election 91 on CBC Saskatchewan. Grant Devine, a 2-term Conservative Premier, he'd like to make it 3. On that note, let's see how he's doing. We'll go to the riding of Pelly, which is in that absolutely crucial east-central part of Saskatchewan. David.
Yes, and this, of course, is bearing out what Dale Eisler said earlier. Here we see the NDP leading. This is a constituency held by the Conservatives earlier. And although Mr. Rink was not an incumbent candidate, it's one of those in the east central area which the NDP have to hold on to or gain back to form a government.
All right, here we have Britton, who is John Britton. He's the sitting member there in Wilkie, but he is trailing at the moment. And again, we see Sharon Merle, an NDP candidate, up at the top there, and that means that she has a 3-vote margin right now.
One poll reporting on this, a Liberal coming second. They hope that would be a strong area.
Saskatoon, Eastview, Haltane, where Bob Pringle is ahead, and this really is an NDP seat. Regina and Saskatoon are expected to be fairly NDP tonight, aren't they?
Well, all the polls suggest that they were in the last election.
Okay, let's see what's happening in the city of Moose Jaw, one of their 2 ridings in Moose Jaw. Lauren Calvert, the United Church minister there, is ahead with 1 poll reporting by 12 votes. The Liberal candidate is second there. David, that's interesting. And Lisa Acton is trailing for the Tories.
Lisa Acton is a very young, 20-year-old candidate.
All right, a popular cabinet minister, George MacLeod, is ahead at this point in Meadow Lake. And, well, we'll see. Maybe Mr. MacLeod can hold on to that seat tonight. He's held it 3 times, and he is a popular individual there. And in Arm River, another Tory seat, let's see what's happening there. Jerry Muirhead seems to be doing all right at the moment. Only 1 of 50 reporting. He has a 15-vote lead. Let's take a look overall at the province and see what's happening. Already, the NDP are leading in 8. The Conservatives are leading in 4. They're down 5. I think that the important number there, David, is that the NDP are up 5. They only need to be up 7, although we're not talking elected yet in order to win.
We're not talking elected, but that's right. They have to be up 7, and if they're up 5, is obviously quite promising and would appear to indicate that perhaps NDP victory.
Talking indicators, take a look at the mini board here where we had the NDP ahead in 10, changing before our eyes. The Tories in 4 and the Liberals not yet there yet. So the NDP pulling way out early. Let's go to Nancy Rose, who is in Saskatoon. She's at the Romano headquarters, and Alethea Foster will join us as well from Grant Devine's headquarters in Estevan. Nancy, to you first, where did Roy Romano target his campaign?
Well, all the ridings that you've been talking about, Holly, the NDP have been quite aware of how close some of those ridings were, and that's exactly where they've been targeting their efforts. In the area known as Red Square, they say they must win that to win the election, and also in the area called the Park Belt, which is the rural seats between Prince Albert and Regina. Now, many of those seats were won by a very small margin last time by the PCs, and the NDP must win those back. They know it, and that's where Roy Romano spent most of his time.
Alethea, where did Grant Devine go to get votes in this province? What was his target?
Well, Grant Devine clearly spent most of his time in rural Saskatchewan. He too spent quite a lot of time in that area called the Park Belt, which is the constituencies between Regina and Saskatoon. He also spent a fair amount of time in the Big L, those ridings that go down the Alberta border and across the United States. Clearly, everything he did in this campaign and leading up to it was dedicated to the urban ridings. The rural ridings. That was his strength, of course, in 1986. and the party realizes it has to hang on to that strength if it's going to do anything at all in this election.
Thank you, Alethea. And David, these parties do these things for a reason. They know where they might be able to gain votes.
Oh yes, very definitely. In fact, during those interviews, we see that Kenora is another one where the NDP is leading. Kenora is another one of those seats, East Central Saskatchewan, where the NDP really had to make a breakthrough and get back its strength.
If there's much of a change there, the Tories are in trouble. The numbers are creeping up for the NDP. As you see, 13, 14, exactly as we watch. Looks to me like they are a long way ahead of the Tory
They're a long
and
way
the Liberals
ahead. That's
now.
right. And the Liberals so far, not too much to show, but we'll have to wait till some of these hard-fought constituencies, such as Saskatoon, Greystone.
Exactly. I think we can say at this point, although those are electing, that the NDP are on their way to a government, and they most certainly are. The CBC decision desk has declared an NDP government. That call comes at 20 minutes after 8 o'clock. The CBC decision desk has declared a majority NDP government. Roy Romano will be the next premier of the province of Saskatchewan, the 13th premier, a man who sat as MLA since 1967, except for a brief time during the Monday Night Massacre in 1982. He was Attorney General in Alan Blakeney's cabinet, and he also made a very strong appearance on the national stage during the constitutional debate in 1982. So a wonderful evening, Dale Eisler, for Premier-elect Roy Romano.
Yeah, it's been a long wait for Roy Romano, Holly. He was first elected, as you said, in 1967. He ran for the party leadership just 3 years later in 1970 and lost narrowly to Alan Blakeney. And I think it's safe for us to assume that ever since that day, he's wanted to be premier. Indeed, he was defeated in 1982, was out of politics, had a chance to go federally, but turned it down so he could come back and run provincially. So he's achieved his goal that he's been after, I think, for about 25 years.
Well, I suppose it would be fair to say he's paid his dues as much as anyone in terms of his contribution politically to this province.
There's no question. Roy Romano was deputy premier for 11 years under Alan Blakeney, and I think he did a pretty commendable job. He was seen as very loyal, and as you say, he paid his dues. And that, I guess, is why he won the leadership by acclamation in 1987 when he did come back and Alan Blakeney stepped down. Nobody else challenged Roy Romano for the job. Everybody felt it was his if he wanted it. He wanted it, he got it, and it looks like he's now going to be premier.
All right, and David, most certainly an exciting moment for Roy Romano.
Oh yes, it's a long time to wait to become premier. I think he's a man with a great deal of political experience and also one with national experience, and I expect that if he becomes premier, we will see him quite a bit in national government, national politics.
The man who said good things come in three, and he means 3 NDP provincial governments in BC, Ontario, and now in Saskatchewan. Well, we've told you now that Roy Romano will be the new premier of Saskatchewan. We want to see how he achieved this. Here's what he did. He has taken 11 seats already this evening. The polls have only been closed for probably 23 minutes now. The NDP are already up 11 seats. The PCs are down 11, so you know where those 11 seats have come from. In terms of total vote, the NDP have 51% of the total vote. They're up 6% in Saskatchewan. They had 45 last time and couldn't win. With 51 this time, they did it. The Tories are down substantially to 31%, down 14%.
That's right, and you can see that the Liberal vote has gone up 7%. And I think that's exactly what Mr. Devine feared would happen, that would cut into Conservative support.
Some Liberal vote, exactly. Let's take a look around the province. We'll see what's happened as we discuss our urban-rural split. We see that the NDP are up 1 in the urban areas. They were strong there, but boy, this is the story. They are up 10 in rural Saskatchewan.
It's what they had to do, and that's what they've done.
And the total vote, when we look at the regions, we'll see that they are at 64% of the vote in the cities, up 11. They're at 47% of the votes, up 8% in rural Saskatchewan.
And one has to remember that at the last election, their vote was relatively strong in the rural seats, but it was not enough to win them those seats. So in fact, that +8 is extremely important.
All right. Well, as you might expect when you see such a sweep, some Tory cabinet ministers are going to go down. We'll take a look at Neil Hardy and Kelsey Tisdale. He's on his way down.
He's trailing by 14.
He's trailing at the moment. Kelvington Wadena, Sherwin Peterson, Minister of Highways, is trailing. And in Kenora, that important east central area, well, the margin is only 1. So let's not call things too hastily, but Lauren Kopelchuk is trailing. Assiniboia Gravelbourg, Jack Wolf is trailing by 11, David.
And that's a seat, of course, which at the last election, Ralph Goodale won, a Liberal seat. One wonders where Ralph Goodale is this evening and whether he's watching.
That's right. I'm sure he is watching. I'm sure he would like to see how Linda Haverstock is going to do. All right, we'd like to go to our panel now to see what they have to say about the developments tonight. Costa?
Well, thank you very much, Holly. Well, you know, at least one person is going to go home happy today, and that's Lauren Nystrom. And I'm wondering, Lauren Nystrom, is this NDP victory attributed to Grant Devine's record as much as anything else?
I think a lot of it is. Grant Devine became very unpopular in the last 3 or 4 years. I think when it really turned was 2 years ago over the proposal to privatize Sask Energy in the province, when the NDP rang the division bells and public opinion crystallized on our side in opposition to privatization of that Crown Corporation. And Grant Devine has never recovered since then. The second thing is that Roy Romano has run a very good campaign. He's been a very good leader of the opposition. The party has been rebuilt and rejuvenated.
So you say, as far as from the Tory side, it was the privatization that started the slide. Ken Waschuk, do you agree with that?
That does seem to be a bit of a landmark, and Lauren, you're not the first person I've heard say that. I think Roy was having a little difficulty in getting things rolling along for the party until that point. And whether it was that event or simply that time frame, it certainly was a landmark for the NDP.
Bob Crow.
Well, I have to agree with what Dalton Camp said about 8 days ago on the Journal, which is basically this is a ritual that governments go through every couple of terms. We're seeing the PC's turf because people get tired of governments. The NDP have done nothing really in this election to really turn the tide around other than to simply be the real visible alternative out there.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to suggest I'm a little surprised at the popular vote figures we saw a bit earlier.
You were just looking at the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting the NDP vote, and it may yet get down there, more closer to the 44, 45%.
Well, we'll have to
range.
certainly wait for the numbers to come in again later on. Gentlemen, thank you. We'll talk later. Holly?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Costa. Well, we speculated just a few moments ago that there would be a party tonight in Saskatchewan. We wondered where it would be. Now we know. Up in Saskatoon with Nancy Rose. Nancy?
Thank you, Holly. Well, we've already heard a few cheers yet. In fact, you can hear some behind me right now. People are still waiting to see just how good it gets. Now, with me is one very happy, although one slightly rumpled guy, Chris Axworthy, MP from Saskatoon. Congratulations, sir. And can you tell me, did you expect to see the results this good this fast?
Well, it's early, but it looks good so far. It looks like we're heading towards an NDP majority government, and so, of course, we're cautiously optimistic that result will continue. It looks like it will. And we look forward to turning this province around, to building again. It'll be a slow process, a long process, but we'll look forward to doing that the Saskatchewan way through community cooperation, working hard together. And we look forward to working with the other NDP governments across the country, which will now mean we represent more than half the population of Canada, towards making this country work again.
We've heard a lot already about that aspect of it, what three provincial NDP governments, what changes they can make on the federal scene. How do you see the Saskatchewan NDP playing a role in that?
Well, I think we have a very experienced Premier now, and Roy Romano on the constitutional scene, somebody who understands those issues well. We have two other Premiers and the leader in the Yukon who also understand Canada well, as well as their own regions well. And I think we can put a perspective that the NDP feels is really important, that is put people first in this constitution building process. And I feel sure that we'll be able to make a really meaningful contribution to making Canada a much better place.
Congratulations again, Chris Axworthy, MP from Saskatoon. Holly?
Thank you, Nancy. And you see that mini board in front of us, the NDP with 23, the Liberals and the PCs combined with 12. So close to half what the NDP have. It seems to be an NDP evening. Let's take a look at what the NDP have been able to accomplish in southern Saskatchewan. David, join me, please. They have elected or are leading actually in 6. They're up 5. The Tories are at 3, down 6, and the Liberal presence is there up 1.
The Liberal presence, and that's in Shaunavon. For people who haven't been told it, that's in Shaunavon, and so it must give the Liberals some hope. And that's Shaunavon's part of the Liberal L, right, in fact, right at the corner of the Liberal L.
I'm sure they'd love to take that seat. Let's look specifically at what's happening. There's Assiniboia Gravelbourg. This could have been a Liberal seat, only because leader Ralph Goodale took it last time, but we see that Dr. Louis Draper is ahead in Assiniboia Gravelbourg by 9.
And Jack Wolf had won it in a by-election after Mr. Goodale resigned.
All right, Indian Head Wolseley not doing well well without Graham Taylor. Of course, we don't know how the seat would have gone with him. Likely they'd have difficulties tonight because Lorne Scott, the naturalist employee of Wascana Centre Authority, is ahead at this moment.
Conservatives running third, Liberals running second. Again, an area that has once Liberal.
Okay, and let's go to another riding in the south, Moosomin, where we see Mary Maguire, a farmer there for the NDP, is ahead. Don Toth, who is the sitting member, he's running second, and the Liberal is third there. But those are Tory seats that are falling.
That's right. Here we are with Shaunavon, with the Liberals running first, the incumbent Gleim running second, NDP running third.
Okay, David. One Liberal on the scene, and Linda Haverstock will be hoping that
we'll want to see what happens in Saskatoon Greystone.
Of course we will. You bet. Look at that mini board now. 26 for the NDP, only 11 PC and Liberal combined.
Of the seats the NDP are leading in, 6 are with women candidates, which will be most interesting. 6 women, NDP women. If they were actually be elected, that would make quite a strong part of caucus.
Yes, it would. Okay, let's go to East Central Saskatchewan now. Around in the Yorkton area, those 6 crucial seats that both the parties targeted. Here's what's happening. The NDP are up 4. They're leading in 4, and they have gained 4. The Tories are only leading in 1. They're down 4. It'll be curious to see how some of the cabinet ministers in that area are going to be doing. And here we have it, Lorne Kapelchuk. He's trailing Daryl Cunningham at the moment by a present margin of 1, but if it's part of the trend, he's in trouble. And in Pelly, a narrow win in 86 for the Tories. This time, Ron Harper is ahead by 16 votes.
Some of these seats were won by margins of fewer than 100 votes.
Very close. These are swing ridings, and Clay Serby in Yorkton beating the mayor of Yorkton, Brian Fromm, at the moment with 5 votes. Well, the Tories knew that if they couldn't hold this part of the province, that they weren't likely to form government.
No. In fact, this time 5 years ago at the election, when we saw those figures but reversed for the Conservatives, it was fairly clear the NDP was going to lose.
Okay, Dean Boutal is much closer to the action in Yorkton than we are, so let's see what he has to say. Dean?
Well, the Tory spirits are not very high. They're very high here in Red Square, Holly, at Clay Serby's headquarters here in Yorkton. And we've got with us a local farmer, John Colbin, who didn't vote Tory, obviously. Grant Devine said he was the voice of the Conservatives, for the farmers, rather. You didn't vote for him. Why is that?
Well, it's on account of the SCRIP program, the way it was administrated and put forward to us, and plus this $800 million, which is far too little, too late.
What about the deficiency payment? You mentioned that. Not enough?
Well, that's not enough, and it's far too late.
Okay, back to you, Holly.
Thank you, Dean. Well, there are some major stories unfolding tonight. We want to tell you in headline form what they are. Firstly, most importantly, the NDP will form the next government of Saskatchewan. Our decision desk has already called an NDP majority government with enough gains from the Conservatives to win. Nothing to report yet from the constituencies where the 3 leaders are running. Grant Devine in Estevan, Linda Haverstock and Roy Romano in Saskatoon. Roy Romano, who will be Saskatchewan's 13th premier when he wins his seat. And the Liberals' total vote is up, as we expected already, from 10% in the last election to 18% in the early going tonight. All right, David Smith, that has to provide some satisfaction for the Liberals, although they've yet to elect
yes,
anyone.
it can. And in fact, one can take the view, sort of what happened to the Conservatives in the 70s, that the Liberal revival will be a 2-step process. I mean, it seems to me that's very possible, that the next election, the Liberals can then parlay that into winning some seats.
We want to know how Roy Romano is doing, and we're going to find out. Well, David, are you surprised? Present margin 64. He's winning.
No, I'm not really surprised.
Okay, and here's how it breaks down. Tory at the bottom again. Here we have it. Roy Romano, then Gary LaPlante, the Liberal, and Gay Caswell third.
Who was elected formally to the legislature, but trailing, as of course other Tories have been tonight.
Okay, Cheryl Jackson is in Saskatoon. Let's go up to Cheryl now for some comments. Cheryl.
Well, Holly, as we've been saying all along, the NDP had to gain a lot of rural seats to form a strong majority. They're gaining some in the Park Belt, but there are some very tight races. Let's take a look first at the numbers, and we can just see how the parties are standing. You can see in the Park Belt region, which is the area roughly between Regina and Prince Albert, the central ridings, the NDP are leading in 9, the PCs are at 5, and the Liberals are at 0. So those are the total numbers. Now, some very tight races. You can see 6, 6, and 6 votes after one poll reporting for each of the candidates in Rosetown, Elrose. Now, this was Herb Swan's seat, former PC member. He may lose it if Tinning doesn't pull ahead a little bit. Now let's go, well, we had Rosetown Elrose, as I just told you, Tinning tied with Bernie Weens. Now in Last Mountain Touchwood, you can see once again a tie between the two top candidates. Arnold Tusa of the PCs, not doing as well as maybe some people expected. Dale Flavel, a farmer in the area of the NDP, tied right now. This is only one poll reporting, though, so this will be a close race, one to watch because it's often an indicator of how the rest of the province will go. In Melfort, we can see Carol Carson just a little bit ahead of Ken Neighbour of the PCs. This was Grant Hodgins' seat. He stepped down over fair share, a very dramatic resignation. Here we are in Wilkie, and you can see John Britton is just ahead of Sharon Murrell. He's edged her out a little bit. Earlier, we saw him falling behind, 6 polls reporting. In Rosthern, 3 polls, and Bill Newdorf well in the lead, I'd say, over the NDP leader, or candidate, I'm sorry. Lots of noise here at Roy Romano's headquarters. And Holly, we'll keep a close watch on some of those ridings to see just which way they turn.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, from the jubilation where Roy Romano is tonight, we understand that Grant Devine at this moment is losing his seat in Estevan. We'll go now to Alethea Foster, who is in Estevan for us tonight.
John Pringle, he's a campaign manager for the PC party. Mr. Pringle, looking at the results that we have so far tonight, an NDP majority, what went wrong with the Tory campaign?
Well, I'm not too sure that all the results are in yet in terms of our rural votes. I'm just looking at it right now. It looks like a number of them are in, but we've got to make sure that all our rural vote comes in. If there is anything, if it is an NDP government, it would be because there is a split on the free enterprise side of the ledger. And as everybody in Saskatchewan knows, if the free enterprise splits, then what you're going to end up with is an NDP government.
What about the party as it stands now? Is it going to be able to rebuild? It looks like you're going to be in for quite a bit of a body blow here.
Well, the party's very, very strong. It's a very, very good party, and there's tremendous men and women throughout the party, and so the party will be there and will be very, very active either in the next few years, no matter what.
What will be the first thing that you and the party will be doing tomorrow morning when you get up?
Well, I guess we'll have to assess all the results and see exactly what ended up and who's all there. So we'll just find out when all the results are in how well we did.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pringle, and it's back to you, Holly.
Thank you, Alethea. Well, you might have heard some cheers when it was announced that Grant Devine was trailing from our audience with us tonight. We understand there were also jeers when Mr. Devine went to the polls to vote. This is what's happening there for Grant Devine. Leonard Hockness, a farmer in the area, is ahead by 10. Grant Devine is in second place. And when governments are voted out, you can expect that the key targets are cabinet ministers, most certainly the premier and cabinet ministers as well. Let's take a look at how some of Grant Devine's cabinet ministers are doing. Lauren Hepworth, finance minister, the architect of the expanded PST, the man who had to try and sell it for the government, is trailing by a present margin of 24. In Kelsey Tisdale, Neil Hardy, husband environment minister, is rural affairs minister. He's trailing. Rick Swenson down in Thunder Creek, who won that seat in a by-election in '85, he's trailing at the moment as well. All victims, it would appear, of a mood for change. Assiniboia Gravelbourg, Jack Wolf is trailing. Community Services Minister, looks like he's in difficulty there. And in Kenora, the east central important part of the province where the NDP was able to take so much from the Tories tonight, Lauren Kapalchuk is trailing. The margin is just 1. It's not over yet, but it certainly looks like many familiar Tory faces in cabinet are simply not going to be there, David Smith.
No, it certainly does look like that, and I'm very surprised for Mr. Devine and Mr. Hepworth as well as some of the others. I wonder if down in southern Saskatchewan, in addition to the agricultural programs, there might be things to do with Rafferty Alameda would be something.
Certainly.
I think, and probably also this business about cross-border shopping, which that makes those Tories particularly vulnerable.
Let's move from some specific issues to take a look at the big picture throughout the province tonight. Well, incredible story for the NDP. They have elected 3. They are leading in 40. They are up 21 seats. Dale Eisler, could you have anticipated this?
Well, yes, actually, Holly, we could anticipate it. The polls seem to be indicating a big NDP win in this election, and that's exactly what's happening tonight. If I could just mention something about the result we have here in Estevan. Only one poll reporting, and it has Grant Devine trailing. In the last election, he only lost one poll in this entire riding. I checked, and the one he's trailing in tonight is not the same as last time. It was in Beanfate, a nearby community where he trailed last time, or where a poll that he lost. This is in Estevan itself where he is trailing. I think that's significant, and it could point to maybe a mood for change that's happening in his own constituency as well.
All right, and it is good to point that out, Dale. We don't want to overstate what's happening when we just see one poll, but sometimes one poll is all it takes.
Well, that's right. I remember back in 1982 when the Tories swept to power. I was at NDP headquarters, and it was one of the first polls of the evening that was reported, and it was in, I think, the constituency of Saskatoon-Westmount, which was sort of bedrock NDP territory, and this poll showed the Conservatives leading by a fairly large margin, and one of the strategists for the NDP said, I fear that we're into a landslide situation here, that the Tories would sweep the province, and indeed they did.
Some reason to fear. Dale, let's look at some numbers together. All right, okay. The regional contrast for the NDP.
Right, they're up one in Regina. Well, that's not surprising. We had a seat added to Regina, and most people thought that they would pick that up. And I'm not sure if they're taking B.D. Martin or Jack Lyne's seat at this point. But it's just the same pattern all across the province. I see in Yorkton they picked up 3 seats there. We said at the beginning of the show that the so-called Red Square area was going to be crucial, and obviously there are some changes happening.
They're doing it everywhere, Dale.
Yeah, that's right. It's this is looking very much like a steamroller at this point.
It most certainly is. You know, of course, by the end of the evening, we'll have made the comparison as to whether this is a Monday night massacre for the NDP.
Yeah, well, you know, the NDP, I think, have been waiting a long time for this night. They were really set back on their heels, obviously, in 1982, and they hope someday to sort of repay the favor to the Conservatives. I don't know if they're going to do it tonight in the same magnitude.
Let's see, Dale, how the Tories are doing when we look at the regional contrast for them.
Well, that's right. Again, here down all across the board. Not surprising that they're down. Their votes down 20% in Regina. I think fair share hurt the Conservatives very badly in Regina, and they were already in trouble there before they brought in the decentralization program.
Okay, and we'll go around the province with Dale. We just see minus everywhere in blue.
That's right. I mean, the trend is on, and it's these things. When it starts happening in an election, it doesn't get confined to a specific area. If a certain mood sets in, you can be sure that it's going to sort of permeate the entire province. And I think that there's a mood for change in Canada. If you look at what's happened in provincial elections in recent times, going back to last summer in Ontario when the David Peterson government was defeated, we saw just last week that the NDP was elected in British Columbia. I just think that Canadians are in a mood to change governments right now.
Okay, Dale. Well, we've been looking at the regional contrast for the NDP and for the Tories. Let's look at a specific Liberal riding, one that Linda Haverstock is hoping to lead her into the legislature, Saskatoon-Greystone. She's ahead. David.
She's ahead considerably, isn't she? And this may be an exception to the NDP steamroller in the cities. Mr. Preble, of course, is a very strong member of the legislature, and I think a very devoted one, and certainly the NDP will be unhappy to see him go, but I'm sure the Liberals are even more happy to see Linda Haverstock elected.
One poll reporting there. Early returns from Saskatoon. Let's go to Cheryl Jackson. Cheryl?
Preble is losing his seat at this point in Saskatoon, but many of the other NDP ridings are holding their own. Now, so it looks like the NDP will do what they knew they had to do, which is hold their urban power base here. You can see in the numbers the NDP are leading or elected in a total of 8 ridings in Saskatoon, the Progressive Conservatives in 1, the Liberals in 1. We've just seen that's Linda Haverstock's riding. Now, if you go to Saskatoon-Wildwood, this is a new riding in Saskatoon, and you can see Pat Laurier, a Saskatoon city councillor, is out in front at this point after 1 poll reporting. Let's move on now to Saskatoon-Fairview. Bob Mitchell, this is no surprise. He's an NDP incumbent, a very likely candidate for the cabinet. He's well in the lead. Herman Rolfes is leading in his riding of Nutana, an old NDPer. He's been around a long time, former Minister of Health under Blakeney's cabinet, in the lead in Saskatoon-Nutana. And here we are in Saskatoon-Broadway. Once again, no surprise, although only 1 poll reporting, but Pat Atkinson is well in the lead here. So as you can see, Holly, Saskatoon is doing rather well for the NDP. They're holding their own and making some gains. Back to you, Holly.
Thank you, Cheryl. Well, when the NDP is doing so well provincially, it's important to know that Roy Romano has been elected. So not only will they form government, they'll have a leader. We'll have a 13th Premier, Roy Romano. David?
Yes, so as we said earlier, I'm sure he's very excited about this. It's been a long wait, and he will provide, presumably, a very good government for Saskatchewan.
Well, and of course, let's move from Saskatoon and the joy that Roy Romano must be feeling, though, to take a look at what's happening in Regina. Saskatoon firstly. Okay, there we have it, just so that you can see that white check mark, which on the left of the screen shows us that Roy Romano has been elected. With only 3 of 40 polls reported, we can tell you this. Let's look at Ed Tuszowski down in Regina Dudney, re-elected there. So the two of them have spent a lot of time together. They'll spend a lot more time together.
That's right. I mean, a very, very prominent member of the NDP team. No doubt will be in cabinet, probably financed, but that's Mr. Romano's decision.
Maybe there'll be some new faces in cabinet. One of them could be Louise Simard in Regina Hillsdale. Louise Simard, NDP ahead, Larry Bird, the Liberals second, David.
Yes, right. And the Liberals are doing very well in some of these seats, even
There's
though they're
an
not
example
winning.
now.
Right. Very well.
All right, Regina Lake Centre. Let's see what's happening over in that constituency. Joanne Crawford, university researcher, new on the scene. She's got a 355 lead over the Liberals.
It's a commanding lead.
The Tories third in so many of those ridings in the city.
That's right.
Look at the mini board. Unbelievable, these numbers. NDP 46. PC and Liberal combined only 16. If this isn't a Monday night massacre, I don't know what would be.
Well, no, it's a bit hard to see what else they could want rather than that, but it's a very commanding lead.
You betcha it is. All right, thank you, David. You're watching Election 91 on CBC Saskatchewan. Big smiles on lots of NDP faces tonight. I suspect we'll find some of those around Nancy Rose in Saskatoon. Nancy?
You better believe it, Holly. Well, I heard some cheering when we announced that Roy Romano was elected, but boy, the biggest cheer was when they announced that Grant Devine was losing so far his seat in Estevan. With me is Barb Bakichak. Barb is the vice president of the NDP party. Barb, did you expect a victory of this magnitude?
Oh, yes, I think so. I think we're very excited. I've been out on the doorstep a bit and talking to people who've been working in this election. The electorate was very despairing of Devine. I'm not surprised about Harkness leading him at the moment. I'm also sure that the electorate felt that there wasn't a real alternative with the Liberals and that the NDP was the only party with a vision of hope for the future.
Well, the Liberals are up, and according to a lot of the experts, they said, well, that could be splitting the free enterprise vote. Grant Devine himself warned that, but the NDP are also up 7% in the popular vote as well. What do you attribute that to? Because Grant Devine was supposed to be, even now, very hard to beat in rural Saskatchewan.
Well, I think that it is the lack of a vision and an alternative. I think that our party represented a clear goal for the future and an optimistic one. We've lived through some pretty tough times in the last 8-9 years, and I think people also know that the coalition between the Liberals and Tories that began the Tory regime in 1982 and 86 was not one they wanted to choose to support again.
But you're sounding awfully optimistic now, but even a day ago I was hearing people say we're not sure about those rural seats. What turned the tide there?
Well, I believe that the top flight candidates that we have in the NDP that are running in the rural seats convince the voters on the doorstep that they are the best choice for the future.
Any surprises? The cabinet ministers, Grant Devine losing, did you expect that?
Well, I'm not certain of all the results as they've come in, but I'm not surprised about Devine. I think that he has run a very negative, poor campaign, and I think the electorate in Saskatchewan is more sophisticated and that they want something to hope for, not something to despair about.
Thank you very much. Barb Makichak, Vice President of the NDP. Holly?
Thank you, Nancy. Well, I'm curious, as I'm sure all of you are, to know just what Grant Devine's situation is down in Estevan. Let's take a look at how the Premier is doing down there. And we see that he is trailing by 20 votes at the moment. The night's not over, but Grant Devine must be feeling a bit of trepidation there. Here it is specifically. Leonard Harkness, the NDP farmer who was ahead a little earlier, he's ahead right now. All right, Roy Romano ran a low-key, don't make any big promises type of campaign, and obviously that paid off for him. Let's see what our panel thinks about that. Costa?
Well, Holly, can I quote someone else as part of our election team, Dale Eisler, in his column, which perhaps was the phrase of the election campaign, calling Romano the man in the bubble. The Tories can wash-jug led in the criticism and criticizing Romano's approach to this campaign, but it seems to have worked for him today. Why?
Well, I think, of course, the Tories were critical of him. However, most people would admit that given the kind of lead they had going in, you would have given them the same advice. I mean, when Romano came into this campaign with a huge lead according to everybody's polling, and when you got that kind of a lead, the managers are tempted to send him on holidays until the campaign's over. So I don't question the strategy. I never did.
Lord Nystrom, do people know what they're getting by electing an NDP government with the low-key approach that Romano had? What do people know what they're getting?
I think they do. The party's been in power in this province for 31 years. Tommy Douglas and Woodrow Lloyd for 20, then Alan Blakeman for 11.
It certainly is a different NDP government, and has that been articulated during the campaign?
I think it really has. I think Roy Romano has been very forthcoming and forthright in terms of where he stands, where the party stands. We published a platform booklet during the campaign. It's been very much direct in terms of where we stand.
Bob Crow?
Romano's been able to write himself a blank check for the next 4 years. He's made no specific promises, and he's couched everything in terms of caveats of, first, we're going to look at the books and see what's there. In fact, I think what we will see is that he will immediately attempt to distance himself from the kind of NDP government that Bob Rae ran in Ontario. He'll come out with an extremely fiscally conservative budget, probably with some big cuts in traditional NDP areas. I think he's written himself, by this type of a campaign, a virtual blank check to do what he wants with.
I think one reason he's had to run that kind of campaign is that the province, as Linda Haverstock has said, is virtually bankrupt. Tremendous deficit. The economic times are not good. The farm economy is not good.
Well, we'll have more to talk about later in the evening. Thanks, gentlemen. Holly?
Okay, and thank you, Costa. Well, the NDP strength is certainly growing in northern Saskatchewan tonight. To fill us in more on that, we go to Cheryl Jackson. Cheryl?
Well, Holly, the NDP have always had a certain amount of strength in northern Saskatchewan, especially in the far north. They've held those two seats for a long time, but they had to turn over a few others in northern Saskatchewan, and it looks like they're on their way to doing that. Let's take a little bit look at the numbers right now, if we can. And so you can see in the northern ridings, the NDP are up 3, and you can see at the expense of the Progressive Conservatives, who are down 3. Let's move on to some of those ridings now, and we can see what's happening. A big surprise, perhaps, for George McLeod, who is trailing right now. He's the Minister of Health and Devine's government, and he is trailing the NDP candidate, Maynard Sontag. Now let's go to Turtleford, if we can, and you can see we've declared Lloyd Johnson of the NDP elected in that riding. That was Colin Maxwell's riding before he stepped down to take another job, and it looks like now it's gone back to the NDP where it was before. Let's go now to Shellbrook, and we can see that here Jack Langford of the NDP is beating out Lloyd Muller of the Progressive Conservatives. He was the Deputy Speaker in the government, and he is losing at this point. In Athabasca, after 5 polls reporting, we've declared Fred Thompson elected in that riding. That's no surprise at all. He's held that for 4 terms. In Prince Albert Northcote, another election, we've declared Eldon Laudermilk elected in that seat. He beat out the other 2 candidates. And as you can see, Holly, the NDP are making some fairly substantial gains so far in the race in the north. Back to you.
Thanks, Cheryl. They most certainly are. Well, there's only one Liberal leading at the moment in Saskatchewan. And David Smith, we talked just a few moments ago about a Liberal ahead in Shaunavon. That's not the case. The Liberal who's leading is this woman, Linda Haverstock.
That's right. So the leader of the Liberal Party is leading in the only seat so far.
And she's ahead by 156 votes. A lot of people would like to see Linda Haverstock in the House, the first woman to lead a party in Saskatchewan. It would be most interesting to see her there.
Well, she's shown in the campaign that she certainly can carry her own. I think in the House she'll obviously be a fairly effective member of the opposition.
All right, what we don't know is whether Grant Devine will be there with her, so we'll find out.
That's right.
Okay, Art Jones is in Saskatoon. He's been following the Liberals on the campaign trail. We'll go to Art now.
Here at the Liberal campaign headquarters, there have been several cheers, especially when word came that Linda Haverstock is leading in her riding, and also cheers when it was discovered that Grant Devine was losing in his riding. With me right now is Dan Collisher. He's running in Saskatoon-Haltane. Mr. Collisher, reaction to the results so far?
Well, I think it's very positive, and it's very nice to see that Linda's winning her seat. hopefully we can pick up a few more in Saskatoon. We're running second right now behind Mr. Pringle in Eastview, and we're not too far behind, so we're still quite optimistic about it all.
The results so far aren't as good as what the Liberals expected. What does this mean?
Well, it means that there's a split, and it looks like the PCs aren't going to get it their way either, and I think we're going to come on stronger before the night's over.
There is some speculation that this is the beginning, sort of the first step in the rebuilding of the Liberal Party. Is this the way you see it as well?
Well, you'd have to see it that way, I guess. We were hoping to make a good, solid breakthrough, and before the night's over, we may still make a good breakthrough. And looking down the road 4 more years, maybe something with a good foundation tonight will bring things about in 4 years from now.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Holly?
Thank you, Art. Well, as you saw on the mini board, and you can see it now, the NDP ahead in seats nearly 4 times what the Tories have, and certainly what the Liberals have as well. That means, of course, some cabinet ministers are going down tonight. Let's look at who they are. George McLeod, the health minister, a popular individual, but a man who is responsible for decentralization. The health minister, he's going down. Yes, he was leaving, David. In Weyburn, Lauren Hepworth is trailing. And in Melville, Grant Schmidt is trailing. This is one seat that the PCs felt maybe they'd hold, and the present margin is 143. It does not look like it. Regina Albert South, the only cabinet minister in Regina. Jack Klein, Minister of Labour and Human Resources, is trailing. In Kenora, Lauren Kopelchuk is trailing. They're losing all over. I've yet to see a cabinet minister for the Tories who looks like he's going to be re-elected. Rick Swenson, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Indian and Media Fair, and Thunder Creek, he is losing too. So
there are some that are actually holding their own, as far as I know. The Meiklejohn in Saskatoon is one.
Well,
yes,
we'll check on that, but the tide is certainly all against Tory cabinet ministers. We'll go to Costa and his panel for some comment on that. Costa?
Actually, we're in the audience right now. As you mentioned, Holly, we do have some people watching the program here live at the CBC Broadcast Center. And we found Kevin Abrams. He's head of the Saskatchewan Taxpayers Association, a group that's been extremely critical of the deficit that's piled up over the last few years under the Devine administration. Kevin Abrams, what are your expectations under a Romano administration?
Well, Mr. Romano is going to have some, I don't want to do anything to spoil his night tonight. I'm sure he's celebrating. But over the next couple of months, as he moves into harness, as it were, I'm sure he's going to sober up considerably as he sees the challenges that are facing us as a province.
Are you optimistic he can bring that deficit down? He says he's not going to spend until he has the money.
Well, I think the first thing he might want to consider doing is maybe re-examining his comments and position on the harmonization of the tax.
This is a tax that was added, the PST to the GST. Why do you want that to stay? I thought you don't want taxes.
Well, most of the organizations that looked at it supported the harmonization. The revenue neutrality of it could be addressed, but certainly harmonization overall is, I think, in the best interest of Saskatchewan citizens.
Okay, well, certainly you'll be watching the Romano government closely and making sure the money's spent well.
And wish Mr. Romano well.
Okay, Kevin Abrams, thank you. Kevin Abrams is with the Saskatchewan Taxpayers Association. Holly?
Thank you, Kevin. And Costa, well, these are the headlines this evening. The NDP is returning to power for the first time in almost a decade. The New Democrats are winning a majority government with big gains from the Tories in rural areas. Grant Devine, Premier, is trailing in Estevan. Linda Haverstock, the Liberal leader, is leading in Saskatoon Greystone, and Roy Romano has already been elected as expected in Saskatoon Riversdale. He will be Saskatchewan's 13th Premier, the first Premier of Ukrainian descent, and 9 cabinet ministers are trailing at the moment. David, it's starting to look a lot like things did for the NDP. So many people going down back in 1982, and Devine is trailing.
That's right. So it seems to be a flip, really, of 1982. Big question in that kind of situation is what a new premier does with such a huge caucus.
All right, well, a 23-vote margin, I think that's a narrower margin than we saw the last time for Grant Devine and Leonard Hawkness. But nonetheless, the Premier is not winning his seat at the moment. Let's go to Alethea Foster for some comment on how things are unfolding down there in Estevan. Alethea?
Thanks, Holly. I have with me Gordon Tenno. Mr. Tenno was a campaign manager for Mr. Devine in Estevan. Mr. Tenno, what happened with this campaign? It seems remarkably close. One would expect the Premier to just come in here and clean up.
Well, I'm surprised that it's very close, but we are definitely winning. We're sitting at a 225
vote lead right now, and all our big rural ones are still to come in. So there's no question that Grant Divine's going to win this seat.
But why is it so close? What went wrong with your campaign?
I think what's happened is that Grant Divine has given so much to the farmers that become socialists and they don't know what to vote for anymore.
I think, Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you because obviously the people here think they've got some results that may mean that the Premier is no longer trailing.
Thank you, Alethea. Well, the Tories may have some reason to applaud tonight, and this might be it. We're going to take a look now at the PC cabinet ministers who are, in fact, leading. They aren't all going down yet tonight. Up in Saskatoon River Heights, Ray Mickeljohn, the education minister, is leading with his margin of 2 votes.
Well, I might say that the second candidate is a Liberal and that there are no votes for the NDP there.
All right, it's good to know that. And in Rosthern, the Minister of Social Services is leading Bill Newdorf. We see a flip here, Assiniboia Gravelbourg. Jack Wolf now is up by 15 votes in that constituency. Thunder Creek, things do change, David. We can't write people off until the vote is over. Thunder Creek, the energy minister responsible for Indian Métis Affairs, Rick Swenson, is leading with a present margin of 32 votes.
That's right. I mean, it's interesting how these poll results change, and I wonder myself as a political scientist to what degree this is affected by the plebiscite votes and actually getting these ballots separated, whether in some polls are more difficult than others.
All right, well, we know it's not over till it's over, although it was certainly possible for our decision desk to call an early NDP majority tonight. There are a lot of individual seats yet to hear from.
Oh, yes, a lot, and of course a lot have been decided, but it's hard to get all the information out, but yes, that's true.
A lot of things to find out yet tonight. We want to know how big a majority this is going to be for the NDP, why they were able to take so many votes from the Tories, and who's going to be left in Grant Divine's Conservatives. Exactly. You're watching Election 91 on CBC Saskatchewan. David, we're going to look at the overall picture in the province of Saskatchewan tonight as the NDP make tremendous gains. The NDP have elected 24. They're leading in 27 for a total of 51 seats. There are only 66. And we see how the PCs are doing. They've only elected in 1. The total vote, the NDP have taken 52% of it already.
This is remarkable. See, this absolute majority of the popular vote has supported the NDP. That is relatively rare in elections, even in Saskatchewan.
The Liberal up from
yes,
just
but the
10
other
to 24.
two are almost evenly divided in popular vote.
This looks an awful lot like an Angus Reid poll to me.
Yes, it does.
Dale Eisler?
Yeah, it sure does, Polly.
What do you think of this?
Yeah, it looks very much like the Angus Reid poll. As I recall, the poll had the NDP with 51% of the decided vote, and the Liberals and Conservatives were tied at 24%. So we're very, very close. I think pretty soon people are going to start asking about Grant Divine's future. I think he is pulling ahead in this race, but the question remains, will Grant Divine want to remain as leader of this party? He has never sat as an opposition leader, so I think that this is one question that's going to have to be answered in the near future.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Let's take a little break from all of the weighty questions of the evening. It is an important night in Saskatchewan, but I know a man who can find a little laughter and a little humor in all of this. That's Ed Sebastian, the editorial cartoonist up in Saskatoon. Ed, what's funny about what's going on?
Well, there is some humor in it, and the line that comes to mind really is the little banter between Grant and Roy, where between tractors and steamrollers. And I would say that the cartoon for the Star Phoenix tomorrow is going to be something like this, which will have Roy in control of a machine, and the caption will probably read, "This is a steamroller, Grant."
Well, we can all understand that one. There was a rally for Grant Divine not long ago, late in this campaign, and he was trying to point out to Mr. Romano what a tractor was, what some farm implements were, and Mr. Romano's retort was, "This is a steamroller, and that's what you're going to get."
I think so.
Very good. Thanks, Ed.
You're welcome.
All right, and we want to know again how the Premier is doing. There we see a lead. Things do flip around, David, and he's leading by 2.
On the point of flipping around, 2 more ministers have lost their seats, Grant Schmidt and Lauren Kapelchuk.
Okay, but here we have Grant Devine at the very top of the riding board this evening. Tory Blue, 591 votes. So I think what this tells us is that that some of the polls that we're reporting earlier were Leonard Harkness's polls. Now Devine polls, people who support him in certain parts of that constituency
Look how
started to come
evenly
in.
divided that vote is. The Liberals are doing very strongly.
And that's very interesting, too, when you have a premier there, that you also have such a strong Liberal vote.
That's right. I mean, there appears to be a very badly divided constituency.
There is. They can't decide who they want yet, but they will decide before the night is over. Okay. More results from Grant Devine. Well, look at that. 2 votes just a minute ago. He's up by about 102 at the moment. So he is certainly making some gains there. All right, Dale, Grant Devine, not at the bottom of the pile, not in the middle, but at the top.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think it's surprising that Grant Devine is winning this constituency. As you mentioned earlier, we're starting to get some rural results come in now, and I think he's going to get a lot of support from farmers in this constituency. But it's a bittersweet moment for Grant Devine. He might be winning his own constituency, but he's losing government, and obviously that's going to be a bitter blow for him. And as I said earlier, the question is going to be, what is Grant Devine's future? Is he going to stay as leader of the party? Does he want to rebuild this party? Obviously, they're going to be entering a period of rebuilding, and I just don't know if Grant Devine has it in him to stay in politics as opposition leader. He's only been the premier when he's been in the legislature.
Dale, for Grant Devine, since his big win in 1982, he's seen so many of the people who were central to that victory leave, either for the trade post they got, for the Senate as an Eric Bernson, or simply people who decided they weren't going to run again. So he lost so many of his key cabinet people already. Then tonight, with so many going down or trailing, who's going to be around him?
Not many, obviously, and as you mentioned, the key people from 1982 all really left, and that clearly hurt his chances in this election. I think the public had the perception that the Conservatives were spent force in this province, and that's why these people were leaving. And Grant Devine stayed on to fight this campaign. He knew it was going to be an uphill battle, and I think he deserves credit for the type of campaign he waged. His hope was in rural Saskatchewan. That's where he put all his efforts. It hasn't come through, but I think that he sort of fought the good fight, and he's taking this defeat now, and the question, of course, is what is he going to do in the future?
Thank you, Dale. Well, the Tories are running third in many parts of Saskatchewan, and that includes the city of Saskatoon, where Cheryl Jackson is. Cheryl?
That's right, Holly. The Tories are running third in many ridings here. That was maybe expected. We've been hearing in the last few days that the Liberals were going to pick up some of that vote. If you look at the total vote, you can see the NDP really haven't gained that much here, only 1%, but the Liberals have gained 18% in this city. Progressive Conservatives have lost that, 19%. Let's move on now and take a look at some of these ridings. In Saskatoon-Sutherland, the NDP candidate is out ahead, but you can see the Liberal candidate, Robin Bellamy, is in second place, and it's still early in the race. In Saskatoon, Idlewild, once again, NDP in the lead, but the Liberal is second. The PC is way back in third place. Let's go on now to Nutana. You can see we've declared Herman Rolfes elected, but once again, Shirley Kahn, a lawyer in Saskatoon, came in second there. Jerry Ahalt way back in third. Now we're into Saskatoon Eastview Haltane. Once again, the NDP took it without much of a problem, but once again, the Liberal candidate, Dan Collisher, came in there second. So as I said, Holly, the Liberals were expected to pick up a bit of support in Saskatoon, and it looks like they did that. Holly.
Thanks, Cheryl. Well, Saskatoon voters certainly don't have any kind words or votes for the Tories tonight. We'll see what our panel would like to say about that. Costa?
Well, certainly the panel has something to say about the expectations of an NDP government and what people's expectations are. Certainly with the steamroll effect in full gear right now, people's expectations might be high. Bob Crow, what are your expectations of this NDP government?
As I mentioned just briefly earlier, I'm really expecting to see that they will come out with a very fiscally conservative type of approach to the government. They have to. The cupboard is bare when they get there, and they will probably give that task to a minister, finance, who is going to not want to be around 4 years from now as a senior minister, because it's going to be a tough message to deliver.
And Waschuk, have you left a lot of broken pieces for the NDP to pick up right now?
Well, I think it's going to be a challenge for Roy Romano. We've been in an agricultural recession for some time, and the country has been in one for some time. He's promised to get rid of the PST. Not a very good start at grabbing a hold of that deficit, but he's got some challenges, and I wish him well, and I congratulate him. But it appears there's going to be a strong opposition. It's not a blowout as bad as 71 or 82. But it's going to be an interesting and challenging time.
Well, I think it'll be a very challenging time. The cupboard is pretty well bare. Hopefully getting rid of the PST will help to stimulate the economy a bit in terms of making it better for people that own restaurants and small business, and perhaps putting a few more people to work through that extra stimulus.
Well, I think that in terms of the cupboard being bare, it really is interesting that the type of campaign that was run was so very closed-mouthed that there was no real attacks on the central themes that usually form part of the NDP campaign. You know, the social justice issues, the poverty issues, and that sort of thing, because I think they knew what they were going to be facing when they got there.
It's the first campaign that hasn't been about Medicare since I can remember.
Okay, panel, thank you. We'll get back to you in a minute. Holly?
All right, thank you, Costa. Well, with the election of an NDP government in Saskatchewan, that tells us that in the last year, NDP governments have been elected in British Columbia just last Thursday, and certainly Bob Rae elected in Ontario. There could be some interesting ramifications of all of this. To talk about it, we're going to go up to Vern Greenshields, and Vern is the Ottawa bureau chief for the Star Phoenix. Vern, thanks for joining us this evening. What do you think an NDP government in Saskatchewan will mean to Ottawa?
Well, it could make a difference on a couple of different fronts. The constitutional question has come up, as you've mentioned earlier in your program. The NDP, if they get together and stay together, will have an effective veto on constitutional change. The formula for change is 7 provinces representing more than 50% of the population. The NDP will have 3 provinces and more than half the population, so they can block any changes if they stay together. The question of how well Mr. Romano can do versus Mr. Devine in terms of getting agriculture money, I'm sure will be coming to people's minds now that it looks like the NDP is going to win the election.
Well, isn't that right? One of the first things that Mr. Romano said he would do was lead those farmers down to Ottawa and demand more money. What exactly do you think his chances are of getting it?
I don't think he's got a great chance of getting more money. In fact, it was a bit of a surprise they got the extra $800 million a month before this campaign. Mr. Romano can lead farmers down and he can demand money, but he's not operating from a basis of strength.
Okay, thank you, Vern. We know that the Premier will have a few problems on his hands when he's elected. Let's take a look at how how Roy Romano, the Premier-elect, is doing. As we know, he was elected in Saskatoon, Riversdale, David, a seat which he's held an awful lot over the last number of years.
Yes, he has. A big change from 1982, and one I'm sure that Mr. Romano prefers to see.
Absolutely. He's comfortable now. And in Estevan, is Grant Devine comfortable? Well, he may be. He's leading.
He's leading. That's right, and it's a turnaround certainly from earlier in the evening.
Okay, and Linda Haverstock, how is she doing up in Saskatoon, Greystone? Is she going to be able to find her way into the legislature?
That's quite a substantial lead. It would look as though that is fairly certain.
It certainly is, and she was looking at a tough competitor there in Peter Preble.
Oh yeah, very competent member of the House, and I'm sure that one who will be most disappointed at losing.
Okay, what's happening in the city where we are right now, in Regina? Let's take a look at how the Regina vote is shaking down this evening. Only are 11 seats. As you look at this, the NDP are elected in 10. They're leading in 1 for a total of 11. Did anybody vote anything else?
Well, we haven't seen a popular vote, but if they did it, they'll be disappointed.
Okay, let's be specific here. Let's look at Regina-Wascana Plains. Regina Councillor Doreen Hamilton leading the Liberal candidate Cam McCannell.
This was one of the seats the Liberals had hoped that maybe they would be able to parlay.
And the face we don't see is one that belongs to Beattie Martin, who's a cabinet minister who is not in the picture. He's not first and he's not second. Let's see what else is happening in Regina. In the Northwest, John Sullivan elected there. John has been an MLA, and
I think it was expected that we would hold that Liberal second, though, and Conservatives the third.
That's right. Shades of Saskatoon to see the Tory candidate at the bottom. And it's happening again. Regina Albert South, a man who could be the Justice Minister, Sir Kuyava. And he's ahead by nearly 400 votes, but the Liberal candidate, Saul Jacobson, is next.
That's right.
Regina Albert North, Kim True, re-elected. Present margin doesn't really matter when you've won.
No, and again, he's had the seat for a couple of legislatures.
Ned Shillington, familiar NDP face, a man who was part of Blakeney's government, and he is re-elected in Regina Churchill Downs. Regina Hillsdale, Louise Simard now has been re-elected there, and Louise is the critic for women and health.
And so would seem to have some claim on, but the Ministry of Health in a new
Shirley
cabinet.
Schneider not showing in that scene at all. Regina Victoria, Harry Van Mulligan has been re-elected, so he will be part of the Roy Romano government, as will Ed Torczewski.
Some of these are quite old faces, which of course underlines the point that the NDP is a very tried team, many of them certainly in this election.
Yes, it is. But you know, one of the interesting things that Roy Romano faces is what Grant Devine faced when we keep referring back to that 1982.
That's right.
And that is, you've got so many people. They've worked hard for you. You obviously feel many of them are competent. Who gets into cabinet and who doesn't?
Well, I think there are a number of things to consider, and competence is obviously very important, if not the most important factor, but you also couldn't have all of your cabinet ministers coming from one or two cities or from rural as opposed to urban. So he has to balance a number of factors: gender, location in the province, perhaps occupation.
All right, there will be concerns expressed throughout this province, certainly from people who voted Tory or Liberal, and just a lot of interesting questions to be asked of the Romano government. Let's go to Alethea Foster, who's in conversation down in Estevan. Alethea?
Thanks, Holly. I'm here with Rob Green, and Mr. Green is involved in the oil servicing business in Estevan. When I was here a couple of weeks earlier, Mr. Green, you had expressed some real concern about an NDP administration and what it might mean to all oil. What do you think it might mean to oil?
Well, it's tough to say right now. If none of the royalty structures or anything change, it'll take a while for the oil companies to trust a new government before they move on ahead. I think for the immediate time right now, they're gonna cut back and wait and see what happens.
What will that mean to you as a business person if there are any cutbacks?
Well, it'll stop our business basically. It'll slow us right down, and we're going to have to take it from there. We'll have to see what we can do.
In terms of talking about if there's anything you can do, is there anything the oil industry can do?
For us, ourselves, we'd have to start by cutting back staff and everything else, and hopefully we don't have to do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Green. Holly?
Thank you, Alethea. Well, there's a much different view in our audience tonight, and Costa's talking to the gentleman who has it. Costa?
Yes, indeed. I'm joined by two people who are probably the happiest people in this audience right now. George Rosenau heads up the Saskatchewan Government Employees Union, and joining George is Barb Byers, head of the Saskatchewan Federation of Labor. Does this mean that decentralization is over? You fought hard against it.
I certainly hope so, and I think that what it means is that we can go back to some practical things in government instead of the privatization and the taking of public money and giving it to the private sector.
Okay, but you led the fight against taking government jobs out of Regina and into the countryside. Have you been assured by Roy Romano that it won't happen now that he's in power?
No, we haven't. I think, though, we have to go on the basis of the criteria that he outlined, and this program never met any of that criteria.
Barb Byers, what are your expectations of the Romano government? Will he be able to fulfill your agenda?
Oh, I certainly think that he will be. I mean, we've got a lot of expectations. One of the things that will be very delightful for us, quite frankly, is to have a government that is prepared to sit down and talk to us, to go through some discussions, some agreements and disagreements.
Roy Romano has said repeatedly, if he doesn't have the money, he won't spend it. Can that satisfy Labor?
There's many things that can be done that will not cost money, that are on the areas of social justice and movements along that area. The whole questions of democracy, about whistleblowers legislation and so on. Those sorts of things. There's going to be other things that, yes, will cost money, but I think if we get away from the places where it's been spent, which is to line the pockets of some very rich and privileged people.
Well, what areas do you want the Romano government to spend on?
We want them to spend it on health, social services, education, on areas like making sure that there's better labor legislation, better minimum wage, those sorts of issues.
Now, what makes you feel that this administration can afford that?
Well, I think that what we have to do is basically look at what they're going to do in terms of stopping the outflow of money that's been wasted already. We in government see it every day, and we're getting quite disgusted with it. If we see that stop, then we're willing to work along with government and try and overcome the problems we have.
Okay, nonetheless, two happy people, George Rosenau from the SGEU and Barb Byers from the Saskatchewan Federation of Labor. Holly?
Thank you, Costa. Well, a few moments ago when we were up in Saskatoon, Ed Sebastian of the Star Phoenix showed us exactly how the NDP was steamrolling across Saskatchewan. Cheryl Jackson, you have evidence of how they're steamrolling in the north.
That's right, Holly. The NDP did hold much of the north before the Tory sweep in '82, and it looks like they're taking much of that back tonight. They're just wiping out the board. You can see they're up 4 in northern Saskatchewan. There aren't a lot of ridings there in the first place. The PCs are losing 4. Let's take a look at the vote now, and you can see just how that's happening. You can see the NDP have gained 10% of the vote. That's a little higher than they're doing in other areas of the province. The Progressive Conservatives are down 17%. The Liberals have taken a bit of that. They're at 7%. Turtleford, now, we've declared Lloyd Johnson elected in that riding. That was Colin Maxwell's riding. He was the culture minister in Devine's cabinet until he left. Shelbrook, Torch River, Jack Langford again, way out. Lloyd Muller was the incumbent member, the sitting member in Devine's government. He is out of the picture now. Let's take a look at Meadow Lake. Here's a very tight race. You can see George McLeod in second place, Minister of Health, Minister for Decentralization, not doing as well as he might lope. Maynard Sontag, who is a credit union manager, is doing a little bit better than George McLeod would probably like to see in this case. Okay. In Prince Albert Northcote, we have declared Eldon Laudermilk elected. He beat out the other 2 candidates, keeping his seat there. And in Prince Albert Carleton, once again, Myron Kowalski, who was the culture critic in the opposition, once again re-elected. So as you can see, Holly, the NDP are really making inroads in the north. Back to you.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. David, this election, there are more women seeking office than there have been before in the history of the province, 10 more than there were in '86. Many of those women were running for the NDP, 14 of them, 13 running for the Liberals, and 8 for the Tories. I guess we could say that we're most interested at this point in finding out how the women are doing with the NDP, because they're the ones who are going to be sitting in the legislature for the most part.
Exactly, and a number of those women, and probably all of them, but certainly a number of them have had public careers before, at municipal level and such. I think they'll be very strong members of the legislature. As a comment from a nonpartisan person, the NDP has not had all that great a record in promoting women, it seems to me, in politics.
All of the parties have tried, but they've had some difficulty. Right. You're watching Election 91 on CBC Saskatchewan. Okay, David, let's move that conversation ahead. We're talking about women who will sit in the legislature in Saskatchewan. Let's see some faces. Who are they going to be? Well, we can't say that Louise Simard is going to be in cabinet yet, but we can say that she has been re-elected, David.
Well, yes, she has a fairly substantial career in provincial politics. Janice McKinnon's new, as we've mentioned, a university professor. Pat Laurier, alderman in Saskatoon, again, strong experience in municipal government.
Exactly, taking that seat from the Tories with the redistributed vote of the 1989 boundaries. Pat Atkinson, daughter of Roy Atkinson of the NFU, she already has certainly made her mark in Saskatchewan politics. And David, in Saskatoon River Heights, Carol Tycrobe. This is a seat, you know, belonged to Ray Micklejohn.
That's right. So this would be the last cabinet minister in the city.
And a woman who's worked very hard as a city councillor and certainly worked hard to win this seat, Regina Wascana Plains. And that means that Beattie Martin, the only minister of the family in Canada, then has lost his seat. So Roy Romano has quite a choice. He has a number of women to choose from.
Yes, he does. Most of those, as we've seen, have been from the 2 cities. Obviously, that will be a factor in his decision. He might want to choose somebody from outside the cities.
All right, let's go to editorial writer Sheila Robertson in Saskatoon now. Sheila?
Hello, Holly.
Hi. What do you think about the number of female faces we're seeing up there?
Well, I think we're going to see some new ones and some old ones in the next legislature. It's going to be interesting. Of course, it looks like Linda Haverstock is going to be the primary new face in the legislature. Not quite as strong a force as she hoped for, I'm sure. I think she was perhaps hoping at least to be leader of the opposition. It's not looking that way, but she may hold on to her seat there. And I think she will be a strong force in the legislature.
Any backlash against Linda Haverstock?
I've detected a little bit in terms of from some women's groups, for example, who have emphasized that although she is a woman and a strong candidate as a woman, she doesn't necessarily represent the feminist agenda. This leads, for example, with controversy over her stand on pay equity legislation. It's not certain whether she really wants the minimum wage to be raised, for example, as much as some people would like, and this is very much a women's issue as there are so many women in lower income jobs.
All right, Sheila, thank you very much for that. We want to see now how two of the political leaders are doing in Saskatchewan. Grant Devine. Grant Devine is leading, and David Smith, he has a healthy margin. I guess I can't say he's going to be elected, but boy, it looks good for him.
Well, it's certainly a big turnaround from early in the evening, and it obviously changes the whole sort of factor here in terms of the next legislature if Mr. Devine is there leading them, leading the Conservatives in opposition as opposed to not being there.
Will Linda Haverstock be there? Let's look. Up in Saskatoon, Greystone, well, she's got a great big margin right now.
Yes, she has, and it does look as though it's very likely that she will be there, and as we've already said, this will provide a Liberal voice and also a strong woman's voice in the legislature, in addition to the others.
So the debate can continue. The one they started in order to get elected, well, if they are elected, they can continue in the
yes, well,
legislature.
as I was saying, she can say to them.
Okay, let's join Dale Eisler as well. And Dale, we want to take a look around southern Saskatchewan and see what's happening. We'll be getting some votes in just a moment, but I guess we know the story. The NDP are taking seats all over the place.
That's right. You know, I think something we should mention tonight is the Liberal vote and the lack of Liberal seats. The last popular vote total I saw had the Liberals very close to the Conservatives, and yet the Liberals appear to only be electing one member, and that's Ms. Haverstock. It appears that the Liberal vote's been sort of concentrated in mostly urban areas, and while they've had a sizable vote, it hasn't been nearly enough to overtake the NDP, so it hasn't been a very efficient vote for the Liberals.
Well, and as we said early tonight, the Liberals had to get so many more votes in order to get seats.
Yes, that's right, and they had to really emerge kind of in rural Saskatchewan if they were going to win any seats, and it appears that that hasn't happened. In fact, what seems to be going on is that a lot of Conservatives have moved over to the NDP, even in rural Saskatchewan, and some have gone to the Liberals. But
let's see some of the numbers now, Dale, okay? Let's look at the regional contrast for the NDP. All right, Dale, here we see in Regina they're up 2, and in the south and in Yorkton, those are pretty significant.
Yeah, it's the same story all across the province. I mean, obviously the trend is consistent. In Regina, I mean, I think everybody actually thought that the NDP was going to sweep the city, and it appears that's what they're doing. 11 seats in Regina, and they've got them all. In the south, this is pretty significant because now we're getting into what was sort of Tory heartland. You hear talk of the so-called Liberal L, which is the area of the province that runs across the south near the U.S. border and then up the western side. It appears that the NDP has made inroads there, and I got a hunch that might have to do with the whole PST issue and the cross-border shopping.
Okay, let's look at the very southwest, or certainly a southwest part of the province, Swift Current, Dale.
Yeah, now this is very significant. Swift Current has been strong Liberal and Conservative territory for years. The NDP have held it on occasion, but generally speaking, this is pretty solid so-called right-wing territory. Wavering, this is Tommy Douglas's old seat, so this isn't really a big surprise, and I think we're seeing the split vote here that's really hurting Mr. Hepworth, because the Liberal, Mr. Rudichuk, has got a sizable vote.
Just what Grant Devine feared, and we're seeing it in a lot of these seats.
And here it is again. Quappel Lumsden, again, has been a strong Conservative seat. Gary Lane had this since 1971, and he took it from his former boss who used to have it, who was a Liberal. So it's been Liberal and Conservative for decades. Shaunavon, this is really surprising. Well, I guess not all that surprising, because the NDP did hold it for a short period. But this is, again, an area that the Tories just simply had to win.
And you see that the combined vote in so many of those ridings is greater than the NDP vote. So
that's right. It's really hurting them.
Indian
Head Wolseley, this is interesting. Dwight Dunn losing that seat. Graham Taylor won it by over 2,000 votes the last time. Big plurality, and it appears that Mr. Dunn is going to lose it.
And Lawrence Scott, who spoke out so strongly against Rafferty Dam. Eric Berntsen, Senator Berntsen's old seat here, Dale, and we see that there is a Tory elected, Dan D'Autremont.
Okay, Devine's on his way in now. Devine is arriving here, Holly.
Is he?
He's just coming in right now.
All right. How does the Premier look tonight, Dale?
Well, I can just see him now coming in and give thumbs up to the crowd.
And putting a brave face on it.
Yep.
There he is with his family, Chantal, and his son, John. His well-wishers, I'm sure, feeling very sad for the party and sad as well for Mr. Devine this evening.
Yeah, that's right. It's a tough situation for him, losing government, no longer the premier, but he's still leader of the party, and it appears he's going to hold his seat.
The man who asked the voters of Saskatchewan to do the right thing.
That's right, and I guess he said earlier today that the people are always right, so I guess the people did the right thing. It wasn't what he wanted, but
That's right, Dale. A premier and an agriculture minister who must be wondering what did he have to do to get the rural vote.
Well, I think that, Grant Devine is a victim of many circumstances, many of them of his own making, but also forces beyond his control. We've had tough economic times in this province. There really is a mood for a change around the country. I think the anti-Mulroney backlash is also hurting him tonight.
The money from Ottawa didn't help this time, Dale. It certainly helped him in '86,
Yeah.
but $700 million couldn't do it.
No, that's right. I think, in fact, that sort of thing goes against the grain of the way people feel these days. They're not going to be bought anymore by these sort of things.
Okay, well, as the premier gets ready there to take the podium, we expect that he will have some words for his supporters tonight. His wife Chantal,
Good evening,
who
ladies and gentlemen.
campaigned with him. Here he is.
I first of all want to say congratulations to all those who have worked so hard in the Estevan constituency to show them in a tough fight how to win. Thank you very much. Congratulations. I can only say in the last three elections we've won 2 out of 3, and we plan to win 3 out of 4. Yeah. I want to extend my sincere congratulations to Mr. Romano and his new position. I congratulate him for a hard-fought campaign, and I sincerely say that the people are always right in democracy, and I wish him the very best in his administration. I want to congratulate Ms. Haverstock for her campaign, and she is elected, so we'll have 3 leaders elected in the Saskatchewan legislature. I want to say to my wife, Chantal, and to my family, and we have 4 out of 5 here, not bad for this outfit, and to my my mom and dad and my aunts and uncles and cousins who are here that always come down to join us in the election nights, and particularly to Gordie Tenold and the best darn election campaign team any place in Saskatchewan, right here in Estevan. Unbelievable. I've been through quite a few campaigns now with people in Estevan, and they've got more heart and soul and more drive and more tenacity than anybody else that I know any place. They've been through by-elections with me. They've been through general elections. They are just tremendous people, and I can only say to you it's just been an honor to represent you in the last 9 years, and it's going to be an honor to represent you in the future. I thank you very, very much for your support. I know it's been a tough campaign. We went into this campaign way behind, and people said there would be no point in even going through it. Well, we put a campaign together like people across the country were phoning and cheering for us today, and for the last 6 days and the last 6 months. So I just want to say to all of you, you're just the greatest, you're the best. You showed them in one of the toughest elections we've seen in Saskatchewan's history that we can beat the odds. Congratulations. You're just absolutely tremendous. I want to say one thing about being in opposition. I will be the same in opposition as I was in government. I have high expectations for the government of Saskatchewan to be able to stick up for people in all corners of the province. And we're going to be sticking up for people in Estevan, and we're going to be there for farmers and for ranchers, for senior citizens all over rural Saskatchewan. We're going to be shoving ideas out there for diversification, and we have high expectations for what we can be in this province. We want to see oil and gas development, processing, manufacturing. We're going to push for uranium development. You're going to see us fight for fair taxation, and you know that. We plan to be one of the kinds of parties that will continue to say the same thing in the rural and the same thing in the cities, the same thing in government and the same thing in opposition, because we got heart and soul and integrity. And don't you ever forget it. It's from my experience, it's one thing to lead and to govern, and it's another thing to be in opposition and complain about it. Now, we have some high expectations of this province because the people have high expectations. So you just keep believing that you can be. You keep believing in yourself and your family and your community, because you have every right to expect everything possible. And don't let anybody sell you short. And don't let them say that, well, I can't do that because I can't get a hold of somebody here, I can't get a hold of somebody there. You just expect the very, very best. And I'll be there. You watch. We'll work together. We'll lay out the plans as we have now. We had a 5-point plan going into this election that could lead this province into the 1990s. That plan is still there. You know it, and I know it. Now, we'll compare our plan and our expectation and all that growth to the present administration. And for our sake in Saskatchewan, I hope they meet all those expectations. But if they're a little bit short, we'll just say, you know, we could have done that. We can be there. We can build water projects. We can build Rafferty. I touched Paul Pajoric walking in here this evening, and I said, Paul, we built Rafferty. And I'll tell you what, you don't build upgraders and paper mills and water projects and fertilizer projects and new agricultural college buildings and really reach out without pushing. Now, we pushed really hard in the 1980s to give us a base and a broad future and a diversified future for the 1990s. But we did it. I'll tell you, this province will never be the same because we have water where we didn't have water. We have paper where we didn't have paper. We have gasoline where we didn't have gasoline. We have oil wells where we didn't have oil wells. We have fertilizer plants where we didn't have fertilizer. And that's a fact. And that's the truth. To guys like Jack Muirhead and to Paul Pajoric, you can't take Rafferty and Alameda away from them because we've done it. Okay? You can't do that. You can complain about it, but it's here. It's like Diefenbaker Lake. It's here. They can't take the upgrader away because we built it. You can't take the brand new fertilizer plants, or you can't take the new ag college away because it's there. They can complain about it and say they'd have done it smarter or they'd have done it different. They never did it. Okay? It wasn't there. But it's there now. So to people like Jack, to people like Paul, people like Ernie Tedford, to people who have come from all political persuasions, I just say this. You dream and continue to dream and build and go and work. Don't worry about the odd setback politically, but you get out there and you still believe in your kids and your community and all the resources and all the things that you can do, because what it's about is this generation. It's this generation. And this generation demands more than complaining. It demands building and being there. So to all you that helped me build, I want to tell you, I'm proud to have built for you. It's been, for me to be Premier of the province of Saskatchewan and to be in Estevan has been the thrill of a lifetime. You've given me and Chantel and our family the opportunity to help you build, whether it's hospitals or nursing homes or water projects or upgraders or paper mills or fertilizer plants, whatever it may be. We have had the chance to build like we never thought we could before, and you gave us that chance because you believed in it. You believed that we could do it. 10 years ago, if we'd have said we'd have had all these things, you said it'd never happen. Well, you made it happen. You elected a government, and you re-elected a government, and I'll tell you what, you're going to re-elect another government in the future. You're going to do it because you've got a real feel for the future. You know what it means. So I want to sincerely thank you that have worked over the years, not just in the last month, and you have really worked in the last month, and it showed up here, but you've worked for years and years and years, and we've led the nation in diversification and doing things that you haven't seen before. And it takes heart and soul and compassion. So I want you to believe in yourself. Don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged because we didn't win 3 out of 3. Okay, and Margaret Thatcher said the same thing. Well, they'll win 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5, and that's the way it is. We have changed this province and opened it up and diversified it like it's never been before. So you go on from tonight and say, we've made tremendous strides in the 1980s, and the 1990s will be there. And we have a high benchmark now that they have to live up to. They've got to perform like we did in tough times. They're going to have to perform like that in relatively good times, because I think things are going to get better. But they're going to have to meet those expectations. And people in Saskatchewan will expect no less. Finally, just let me say this. I sincerely respect the electorate, and I mean that. The public is always right in a democracy. We have great people in Saskatchewan, all of you and all of the rest of them. So you get out there and you hug your friends, and you have a good Tuesday dinner and a Wednesday dinner, and we'll work together to make this province just the finest place there is in Canada. Thank you, and God bless.
Hello, Mr. Devine.
Hello, Holly.
Hello, Mr. Devine. You're a gracious loser, and it must be a very difficult moment for you.
Well, it's an interesting situation because we expected it to be tough, but we did well. And certainly I congratulated people here this evening because we have changed Saskatchewan a great deal in terms of diversification and building, and the expectations are going to be very high.
You're very proud of the things you've done.
Well, that's right, Holly. If you were in my position and you've worked and were elected and re-elected, as I said this evening, you can be elected 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5. And we fully expect to be very competitive in the legislature and in the province in terms of hopes and aspirations. I'm an optimist, and I really believe in what we can be.
When you talk about going forward and you encourage your supporters and the people around you, are you going to be a part of the Tories in the future? Are you going to be in the ledge?
Well, look, I'm part of them now, and I certainly will be for the near future, so we'll see after that.
Do you see? Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Devine. It's only so much time.
Just part of the whole.
All right, David Smith, it was a gracious speech. We're pleased that the Premier would spend just a few moments with us because the media are after him for all sorts of comments tonight, and plus he'd like to spend some time
One of the
with
most positive speeches I've heard from a politician who's just suffered such a defeat as Mr. Devine has. I think one of the interesting things is, unlike, say, Mr. Peterson or Mr. Thatcher some years ago in this province, there's no indication for what Mr. Devine said that he's planning to step down.
No, there isn't. At one point he said, you go on from tonight, and then a moment or so later he was including himself.
He included himself, exactly. And this will be most interesting because if Mr. Devine does stay on, of course, it will be very much in the Saskatchewan tradition for the defeated Premier to lead his party in opposition in the legislature. Saskatchewan politicians stay on. They don't quit.
As Alan Blakeney did, but there became a point at which he did step down. And of course, it's not only a matter for Mr. Devine to decide personally, but his party will have something to say for it. And on that note, we'd like to go over to our panel to see what their comments are now. Costa?
Thank you, Holly. Ken Waschuk, you're from the Tory camp. What's Grant Devine's future?
Well, I think at this point in time it's much too early to predict or even to suggest anything. Grant Devine himself said, I'll be here at least for the short term and assess things then. It's a 4-year term at least. I don't see that government falling with 53 seats, so he's got lots of time.
Yeah, what do you think? I didn't hear him ruling out stepping down. I guess he's going to have some serious soul searching over the next couple of weeks.
Well, I think he has about 2 years to make that decision. My guess, he'll probably stay on until after the next federal election sometime in 1993. He has a lot of time. He'll have about 12 or 13 members or 11 in opposition. It's a sizable group, and I think he'll stay on for a while. Okay. But it's wide open after that.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Holly.
Okay, and thank you very much, Costa. What we'd like to do now is take a look at those Tory cabinet ministers again to see exactly how they're doing. Here we have not a Tory cabinet minister, but an NDP-elect, Bob Mitchell, and quite likely to be a potential cabinet minister because we know that he's a very close associate of Roy Romano's.
Oh, yes, long history in the legislature, as is Ed Torszewski, a long time in the legislature, lots of experience.
All potential cabinet ministers here. Ed Torszewski, a familiar seat for him. Dwayne Lingenfelter, too.
That's right.
Winning in Regina. Elphinstone, Ellen Blakeney's old seat. David, here's a woman who may get into cabinet.
Yes, this would almost seem to be a preview of the candidates for cabinet, right?
That's right. That's exactly what we're trying to do tonight, is look at some of these people who Roy Romano may choose
Eric
to have
Upshall is
alongside.
agricultural critic. I mean, is the critic of Mr. Devine as Minister of Agriculture. Obviously has some claim on that portfolio, or at least would appear to.
Exactly. Winning up in Humboldt, a seat that he did win the last time, but then only by 18 votes, certainly a greater margin.
That's right, and that was a seat, of course, which the Tories had, in a sense, sort of targeted with the Fair Share diversification program, and it didn't work there.
Okay, let's take a look at numbers again. Well, firstly, at Saskatoon Broadway, at Pat Atkinson, re-elected there. Potential cabinet minister, Pat Atkinson, I suppose in health, maybe in education. She was education critic lately. Okay, well, that's all we're going to look at for the moment, but we have seen some faces there. We're going to Saskatoon, the NDP headquarters right now.
Expect a victory this large.
Hoping for it, but I wasn't quite sure we're going to get it. I'm very, very happy, of course.
Where do you think you succeeded in picking up that vote?
I think we worked hard. I got to go. I got to go. I'll talk to you, Nancy. I'm sorry, but they're really insisting that I've got to go. I'll do those strong
on again in less than a minute. Words. Roy Romano is in a hurry to get up there to speak to his supporters tonight. Premier-elect, and what a happy place to be. Roy Romano asked the people of this province if they could afford 4 more years of Grant Devine, and the people answered. Romano describes himself as a typical Canadian, David. He says he's cautious, somewhat conservative. He spells conservative with a small c.
I'm not sure how typical he is as a Canadian, but he started his political career very young. He has a great deal of experience for a man of his age. And also considerable experience because of his earlier provincial experience in federal constitutional negotiations, which of course is a big issue.
Absolutely.
Is facing Canada in the next year.
He did that back in 1982, and then unfortunately for Mr. Romano, lost his seat then. I don't know whether he would talk about this evening in terms of revenge. Probably he's more gracious than to use that word, but there must be a sense of, boy, we got even.
Well, I'm sure that for himself personally, that is to be re-elected and with such a large margin, and I think also for the party to come back to power. But democratic politics, as Mr. Devine said, is give and take. Sometimes you're in, sometimes you're not this time.
That's right. We know that we're going to hear from Mr. Romano very shortly. He's gone into a room with some of the key strategists around him. I'm sure he's getting some advice again on perhaps what words he should choose wisely as he makes his first speech, knowing that he's going to be the next Premier of Saskatchewan.
Well, that's right, because obviously as a person coming in to be Premier, they are going to be confronted with the words that they uttered during the campaign, and what are you going to live up to this? And I presume the one that's going to present first is what are you going to do about the PST, because it's only 3 hours or 2 hours now till midnight.
I don't know. I'm going to wake up tomorrow not expecting to have to pay it, David.
That's right. Don't buy any toothpaste. Come on.
Well, I think there's some confusion over that very issue, though. Some businesses are wondering, well, wait a minute, can I really not collect it?
Mr. Romano is not the Premier. In fact, he's not even Premier-elect, since we don't elect Premiers.
No,
but in any case,
right.
He's not the Premier, and it'll be a few days before he is.
Okay, well, we know that we'll hear from Mr. Romano shortly, but before we do, let's take a look at some of the tight races that are going on. David, way down in Assiniboia Gravelburg.
Yes, Mr. Wolf, incumbent member of the legislature, is leading narrowly there.
Bucking the trend.
That's a very close, right? 49 polls reporting.
And here we see
another very narrow one, right? Rosetown. This
NDP
is
ahead there.
Swan, who had held the seat but was not running this time. Very close.
Okay, and in Redbury, John Garrich, Associate Minister, who has been working in economic development and diversification under Grant Schmidt.
This is a case certainly where the Liberals are the spoilers. John Garrich had been there for a couple of terms, but it had been NDP territory before.
And a tight race in Moosomin tonight. We see that things have changed since we last looked. Saw Mary McGuire for the NDP at the top of this riding board. She's not. She's in second place, but the lead is 32. Maybe Toth will hang on to the seat.
What all of these have in common is, of course, that the Tories are leading, but by fewer than 100 votes. This is sort of what happened with the NDP at the last election.
And the Liberals are taking enough of that vote to put the Tories in trouble.
So it's putting back some of those incumbents who I think an hour or so ago thought they would be going back to what they had done before they went to the legislature, now can see themselves perhaps squeaking back in.
Exactly. It would be interesting at some point in the next little while to take a look at the percentage of total vote that the Liberals are getting, because they are playing a key role in a lot of these ridings.
Yes, they are. And some of those ridings, of course, are ridings which did historically have a bedrock of Liberal support that seems to be reviving. In the case of the Gerrits, where Mr. Gerrits is running, Finlayson's great-grandfather was a Liberal member of the legislature.
The NDP must smile as they look at the television screen right now and see that they are leading or elected in 53 ridings, a total of 66. Are they ever out in front?
Yes, they certainly are. This will really force the PCs to learn the art of opposition very quickly. I mean, and that's quite different from being in government, and most of these members will probably not have been in opposition before.
Won't it? This is clearly a sweep for the NDP tonight, and the Liberals, with only one leading or elected, and I suppose that has to be the election of Linda Haverstock in Saskatoon. Right. I don't think she wants to be there by herself as much as she would like to be in the House.
Well, no, she'd like to have other people there, but being in the legislature gives her a platform in which she can, enunciate her views, which she hasn't had in recent years.
It's a start. Okay, there are some big stories here tonight. These are the biggest. The NDP has swept into power in tonight's provincial election. Roy Romano in Saskatoon will be the next premier of the province. And let's go to Mr. Romano now. His cheering throngs around him. Everybody very proud of the job he did. And his campaign was right on. He gave the people of Saskatchewan obviously what they wanted this evening. Lots of excitement there. It's interesting for just a moment, David, for us to just sit back and hear the sounds that are coming. That says a lot. Just the jubilation up in Saskatoon at Centennial Auditorium for the NDP premier.
That's right. I mean, clear sweep of the city, or almost. Same in Regina, and of course his own victory, the victory of the party, leading into a government. There could be very little that he could be disappointed about at this moment.
Absolutely. There was never any question. As soon as we got our first results, it was quite apparent that Roy Romano was going to have a good evening. Just how good, we didn't know, but it's probably one of the nicest evenings of his life. There he is, heading toward the podium where he will speak. Mr. Romano, of course, yet to open those books, which is something he said he wants to do, and based on that, we'll know a little more about what we can expect from him. Farmers already expect something, and that means a number of them going to Ottawa with Mr. Romano. Said he would do it. What he wants is money from the federal government, more money than Grant Devine was able to get. Some people are skeptical about whether or not that can happen.
Well, Holly, one of the results of this change will be that Saskatchewan will have a government not of the same party as the national government, which will be the first time in almost a decade. It'll be interesting to see how Saskatchewan fares in that situation.
Roy Romano and his wife Eleanor thanking all of his supporters there who worked very hard, tough campaign, and Roy Romano, very excited man tonight, and he should be. Seeing some familiar faces now, wanting to thank people before he speaks. They just want to cheer a bit, I think, David.
Yes, Mr. Romano, of course, a couple of years ago was sought quite strongly by some people to enter federal politics as a federal NDP leader.
All right, here he is.
A cheer to say that I should make no speech at all. But I am. A very, very short speech. I want to say to you, my friends, as a result of tonight's election, Let the word go forth from every corner of our province tonight that Saskatchewan is back. The people have entrusted us with a great responsibility to rebuild and to renew. Now look, hello, George. This is going to be a short statement, but if you keep on cheering like this, I'll never get through. They've entrusted us with the responsibility of rebuilding and renewing this great province. And I want to say this, my friends, that it will not be easy. It will take a lot of hard work, a lot of tough decisions, and a little bit of luck. But I'm confident that we, the people of Saskatchewan, can do it. We shall do it. We shall overcome our obstacles and rebuild. I'm confident that we're going to do it because the main theme of our campaign was community. The power of community, people like you coming together, its potential and its values. Our province has come together before to overcome great obstacles. And if we come together again as a caring, sharing community in this time of great challenge and great opportunity, we shall succeed, and we'll do it the Saskatchewan way. Now, my friends, I want to thank some very special people. I want to thank first my best friend and my life partner, my wife, Eleanor. Eleanor, please. I want to tell you that Eleanor's strength and support throughout our years in public life has really sustained me and has given me the encouragement to go on, and I thank her very much. She's had the toughest job in this election campaign, putting up with me. I also want to thank my sister Anne and her family, Anne and Walter, and of course Eleanor's mother, my mother-in-law Lydia Boykovich, and the family. Secondly, I want to thank each and every one of you and all of the thousands and thousands of supporters across this province who gave so much of themselves in this campaign. You are the people who make our party work. Your continued support ensures its future. Thank you all. Third, I want to thank each member of our outstanding candidate team for their incredible effort and to congratulate them, win or lose, and there are still some tight election fights, on their contribution to this democratic process. I'm proud of each and every one of our 66 candidates, and I'm going to say as well a special thank you to the candidates of all of the political parties because they have contributed to the democratic system and they deserve our congratulations tonight as well. Fourth, a very special word of thanks to my workers and supporters in Saskatoon-Riversdale. My response... My responsibilities in the rest of the province kept me away from Riversdale for much of the campaign, and we were successful there because of your hard work, your good cheer, and incredible dedication. And I say to Delane Scotton and all the workers, thank you very, very, very much. I also want to congratulate the executive of the party provincially and our campaign manager, Jack Messer, who's done a tremendous job to fashion this great victory for us. And finally, last but not least, I want to congratulate Mr. Devine and Ms. Haverstock on their campaigns. They, too, worked hard and did their best, and they deserve our appreciation for their role in the democratic process as well. Now, friends, a special word, finally, to the people of the province of Saskatchewan. I want to thank everyone who gave us your support today. I'm going to tell you that we'll do our very best to continue to earn and maintain that trust and support. To those of you who did not support us, we respect your democratic choice. And I assure you that our government will work hard to earn your trust. But regardless of how you may have voted today, I urge you, now that the people have spoken, to join us in our efforts to rebuild and to renew our province. We need your help, we need your advice and your support. Join us. We're all... Join us because we are all in the same boat together now, and by working together as a caring community, we're going to succeed. It won't be easy, but with patience and understanding and support, we're going to do it. We are going to make the 90s Saskatchewan's decade, I guarantee you. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen and friends, before closing, I want to introduce to you two people who have played a very important role in my life and have made a significant and important contribution to the province of Saskatchewan and the people of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, a person who I've tried to follow by virtue of his principles and dedication, and his good wife, the former Premier, Alan Blakeney and Anne Blakeney.
Friends, this great victory is a tribute to all of those who worked for the New Democratic Party, all of the candidates, those who won and the few who did not win, and particularly is it a tribute to our leader, Premier-elect Roy Romanow. And I want to say to Roy, on your behalf, just a word. We were with you, and we worked with you as you changed the government. And we will continue to work with you and support you as you make those tough decisions necessary to change this province and change it for better. One last word. Roy, you're our leader. We're proud of you. And if there was enough room, we'd all boogie.
Thank you very much, friends. I'm now going to be leaving for Regina, if the weather permits, to have a few words of victory celebration there. I want you to enjoy yourselves, have a good time. You deserve it after 5 years, 1 day, and hard work. And we're looking forward tomorrow, the big task of rebuilding and making this province #1 again. Thank you and good night.
Well, side by side again for a moment of glory, Roy Romano and Alan Blakeney, David. Alan Blakeney ready to boogie tonight, he says.
That's right. Actually, while they were talking, another seat went over to the NDP column. There are only 11
Well, that's
seats
fitting.
now.
That's fitting, isn't it? Yes. It was very nice, I'm sure, for many of the people in the province to see Alan Blakeney on the stage there
right.
with Mr. Romano, giving him his support. They are so much a part of the history of this province.
Well, yes, and it does underline the continuity in of the NDP, how long it's been present in Saskatchewan politics. I mean, that goes back really almost to 1960, 30-some years.
A long ways. It sure does. And Dale Eisler down in Estevan, the theme of the speech by Mr. Romano, his victory speech, he talked a lot about community. See, we don't have Dale with us right now. Okay. David, community as a theme for Mr. Romano tonight.
Well, it's an old theme in Saskatchewan. It's particularly an old theme for the NDP and the CCF before that. The Saskatchewan is a community that it is a whole, it's an organic whole, that one has to deal with all parts of it. You don't divide it. I mean, there was a lot of opposition on the part of the NDP toward this view that there was rural versus urban, and they never liked that depiction of them as being an urban party.
And here we're seeing, as Alan Blakeney told us, there isn't much room to boogie up there in Saskatoon tonight, and that's because they're packed in shoulder to shoulder to celebrate what is surely a landslide victory and could even be a sweep tonight, the NDP in Saskatchewan. Let's get some quick reaction from our panel here in Regina. Costa?
All right, thank you, Holly, and some talk about now looking ahead. What's Romano cabinet going to look like? Lauren, you can take it away.
Well, I think he has a fantastic caucus to choose from with about 54 members. It's a tremendous caucus, a large caucus. It comes from all over the province. It's both urban and rural. We have a number of women elected, some for the first time. So he has a very good chance to form, I think, an excellent cabinet.
Yeah, I think he's going to want to try to make sure that he covers as many bases off as he can. We're looking into many new areas for the NDP this time around. He's got to pick some new faces out as well. He's got to pull in some of the old tried and true hands.
Excuse me, Bob. I think what he'd like to do is to have a Roy Romano around, the way Alan Blakeney did. Roy was his front man in the House, and he could Blakeney could be the administrator and Romano the front man. I think he has to carefully choose some women for cabinet. And very carefully choose some spokesmen from the rural areas.
What are some names?
Well, I think Louise Simard's an obvious name in Regina. Lauren knows them better than I do, but I think he needs a Roy Romano. Is what
okay,
he needs.
well,
I think
panel,
he has
thank
a lot
you.
of women he can choose from, I think.
Lauren, thank you. We have to move on for a second. Holly, back to you.
Thank you, Costa and panel. Dale Eisler is indeed still with us down in Estevan, where there is no party. Dale, you saw the makings of a good party up in Saskatoon.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, a very convincing win for the NDP tonight. I don't think it was all that surprising. I think most of us really expected we were going to see a large NDP majority, and certainly that's what we've got. If there's a silver lining in this for the Conservatives, I think it's that they've obviously maintained their hold on second place. They've got what looks like about 11 seats. Obviously, that's a pretty small number compared to the government majority, but they're well ahead of the Liberals, who only have 1 seat. And there's sort of a slippery slope in Saskatchewan politics. If a transition starts happening, if like the Conservatives are going to decline and if the Liberals rise up, we could see that momentum really shift. And
Dale, you can see these numbers here, 50 elected, leading in for a total of 54 of the 66 going, looks to the NDP.
Yeah, it's virtually a landslide.
It most certainly is. It's a landslide, it's a sweep, it's just a very big win for the NDP tonight. And look at the total vote.
That's right. Up 6% for the NDP. I mean, a very impressive night for them, and obviously a big night for Mr. Romano. He's been waiting a long time for it. It was interesting to see Alan Blakeney on the podium. He obviously is reveling in this because he suffered the defeat in 1982, and it took a heavy toll on him.
What did you hear? Oh, we're going, Dale, right now to Mr. Romano's headquarters. We're going back to Mr. Romano. Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Regina, and meet, and I'd like to meet with them. I'd even like to consider Premier Devine to joining us if he's in the mood and likes the idea. I think a concerted, non-partisan, non-political effort is what's needed in the interest of all the province of Saskatchewan. So from my point of view, if that could be done, we would do it. Now, whether it's a train or a delegation, I would want to await the advice of these people, Mr. Garth Stevenson of the Wheat Pool, and I hope by the 24th we'll have something a little more clear to say about that.
I can hear the cash registers warming up across the province. You've promised to remove the harmonized PST as of midnight. Does that promise still stand? Are you still telling people don't collect it, don't pay it?
Well, the promise still stands. I worry obviously a little bit about the administrative difficulties which will ensue in the next 4 or 5 days. But I'm hopeful that those can be tackled fairly easily and that we will call the legislature. This is in response to your question. Right now, I'm thinking in the first 2 weeks of December, and we'll introduce the bill and we'll repeal it dating all the way back to midnight of October the 21st. We've got a problem. We don't have a passed budget. It's a divine budget, and how we proceed with that, I don't know. That'll have to take some advice from financial officials. But this is a promise which I made, we meant. We got to live within our means. It's going to be a tough challenge. I promise no miracles, lots of problems, but this is exactly what we intend to do. Yeah.
You have a lot of women now.
3 more questions.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if civil servants here who fear for the jobs because they may have strong Tory connections are going to have to worry about those jobs in the next weeks. So.
No, my position has always been in the years of public life, competence is the key. Competence. Civil servants have got the right to have their political views as much as anybody else. At the very top, when you're advising a premier or a minister, then I do think political aids are important. But for an independent civil service, we are going to strengthen it. We're going to make the Public Service Commission totally independent, and we're going to work on that proposition. So the answer is no one need to fear. The issue is competence.
Mr. Romano, I'm sure your head is spinning right now, but have you given any thought to cabinet?
No, I haven't given much idea to cabinet because, Nancy, you've been following me on the campaign trail for 4 weeks, and I don't know what conclusions you've made, but I hope that you've made one. Because it's correct. I'm a very cautious guy. People say too cautious. I never thought that we were going to win for sure. I was hopeful, and I was going to make no decision until we actually had the result. But tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday...
We're going to leave Mr. Romano now, and the reason we're doing that is on your screen in front of you, Linda Haverstock, the first woman to lead an opposition, not an opposition party in the legislature, but to lead a provincial party, and she will be in the legislature this time. So she must be very, very pleased with this, David.
Well, I'm sure. She's worked very hard, and I think that this gives her an opportunity in the legislature to promote her views of what are the best policies for the province.
Well, it's quite a start, considering that Ms. Haverstock is running for the first time provincially right now, and here she is. Celebrating the moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pride that I introduce to you the newly elected candidate, the MLA for Saskatoon-Greystone, leader of the Saskatchewan Liberal Party, Linda Haverstock.
My dear friends, this is not an unhappy night. This is a night to celebrate democracy. And I know that you're disappointed, because I'm disappointed too. But let's stop and consider just how far we've come. The Liberal Party of Saskatchewan had almost ceased to exist a few years back, and no one took us seriously at all. In 1982, our popular vote was at 4%. And ladies and gentlemen, this evening, the last I heard, we were tied with the Conservatives. We should indeed feel successful with 23–24% of the popular vote, and the fact that our vote was evenly based across the province of Saskatchewan. It just didn't convert into seats because of that. It's because of your hard work. It's because of the hard work of thousands of people just like you across our province that we have pulled ourselves together, and we are truly in the race. And we've got a great deal of which to be proud. We fielded 66 top-notch candidates, and from almost no organization, we've built a solid base across our province, a foundation which will serve in the many months and years ahead leading to the next election. Now, I have to put in a little bit of an aside here because I phoned the Premier-elect, and I congratulated him, and he acknowledged exactly what I told him, of course. I said, you know, we really know how to run things in a fiscally responsible manner. We ran an entire provincial campaign at about $150,000. Try that one, Mr. Romano. Ladies and gentlemen, the people of Saskatchewan wanted a change, and clearly they got it. Voters wanted Mr. Devine out so badly that they were not prepared to take a chance on us. And I want to congratulate Mr. Romano. He has won an overwhelming victory tonight. He and his colleagues have a very large task ahead of them, and the campaign is over. As far as I'm concerned, the rhetoric stops tonight. And we in the Liberal Party are ready, we are willing to do whatever we can to assist the new government to build a stronger, more united, more prosperous Saskatchewan. We will continue to stand up for Liberal principles. We do recognize the multitude of problems that are facing our province, and we are going to do everything in our power to help find solutions. Yes, the election is over, and we must now all work together for the good of our province. And I would like to say a few words, please, if I may, to Mr. Devine. I know that this must be a very difficult night for him, and I want to thank him for 9 years of service to Saskatchewan. We have had our differences, and that is absolutely no secret. But I know that he's always done what he has believed to be best for our province. I want all of you, please, to applaud him. Now, I have some people to thank personally, and many of you here this evening are from Saskatoon-Greystone constituency. You are the people who worked very hard on my campaign and often in my absence as I went throughout the province. I have some people I have to thank specifically, and for those of you who have worked in my campaign office, you know why. For those of you who, in fact, have really been looking at the Liberal Party throughout this province, you know why I'm going to be thanking specifically Elaine Houston, who has done more more single-handedly for my campaign and the provincial campaign than anyone else. I have always stated that God sent me her, and I believe it. And then, of course, God turned around and sent her Terry Lemke. One of the most wonderful things that has happened in the last while being a Liberal is that we've had rookies come together with the veteran players on this team, and it's been extraordinarily wonderful. What can I say except a deep, heartfelt thanks to Red Williams and all of those people who have gone to the very, very end to be able to ensure that we had a terrific campaign. We're standing in Saskatoon, but there are Liberals throughout our province. There are many, many in Regina tonight that we need to thank as well at Regina headquarters. This really is only our beginning, you know. I want you to take note where the Liberals stood in most of the constituencies in Saskatoon and Regina. We were in second place. And throughout several parts of the province as well. So our work is only beginning, and we will continually speak out for all of those things that we believe need to be in politics. We're going to talk about open government. We're going to talk about an end to patronage and corruption. We will truly talk of a genuine commitment to ethics. And I want to assure you, my dear, dear friends, that the Conservatives may be the official opposition, but I will be the moral opposition in the legislature. I will never oppose merely for the sake of opposing. I will try to offer constructive alternatives at all time. And if the government occasionally takes Liberal ideas, I'm going to say that's wonderful. We're glad that we could help. Now, I want to take this time as well to extend my very best wishes to the campaign workers and the candidates of the New Democratic Party and the Progressive Conservative Party. You know what they feel like. And I think that we have been people, all in the province of Saskatchewan, who have truly fought for real democracy. And I especially want to thank all of the 65 magnificent men and women who stood with me in this campaign as candidates. Now, all of you I know are probably quite deflated tonight. You stand proud. You brought dignity, integrity, and true talent to the political system. And I want you to continue to fight for those things that you believe as right. Now, once again, I want to thank everyone here tonight and all of the Liberals around this province who work so very, very hard. We've come a great distance. Clearly, we have a greater distance to cover, and I'm going to leave you with this. Remember that one person with courage is a majority, and the future of our party remains very bright. So let's go forward together. Thank you.
Linda Haverstock shoring up her troops tonight, David, because as happy as she is to be in the legislature, she knows there's disappointment among her troops.
Well, there's disappointment, but I think that actually, as she said, and I think it's very true, that, you know, this could be the first stage to a sort of two-stage march to power. Who knows? But, you know, if you think about what's happened tonight in 1991, the same thing happened in 1982, it happened in 1971. Massive victories for for different parties, and then what we saw in the subsequent years of the decade is the rise of an opposition party to take that over.
Well, that's right. We saw in '86 that Ralph Goodale was the only Liberal elected. At this point of the evening, Linda Haverstock is the only Liberal elected. But what she was able to do that Ralph Goodale couldn't was increase that popular vote.
Exactly, and she also has, I mean, I think it's very interesting, I mean, she has a very definable campaign platform, and she has said that she's not going to relent on this in the legislature, and I would think all parties in the legislature are going to hear from her on this point. And I think she's touching a theme that Canadian electors generally are responding to.
She talks about being the moral opposition. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but all we have to do is watch once Mr. Romano calls his first session, and we'll find out.
That's right. You know, Holly, something that hasn't been mentioned tonight, but should be noticed, that the voter turnout is up in Saskatchewan this evening. Is up by 1.5% over 1986 to 83.1%. An extremely high turnout in Saskatchewan.
Okay, well, let us go right now to Saskatoon to talk to Linda Haverstock. Ms. Haverstock, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Holly.
Lovely win for you tonight. You must be satisfied to be in the House.
Well, I am, but of course I always stated that probably one of the worst scenarios would be sending me there alone. So, you know, I mean, there would be a much better scenario. I think that what we need to be pleased with, of course, is the popular vote. We increased significantly, and what's odd, of course, is that we're almost neck and neck with the Conservatives, but of course the way that their popular vote unfolded converted into seats.
You can call on Ralph Goodale for a little company in finding out what it feels like to be a lone Liberal.
Yes, that's indeed true.
Tell me a little bit about the role you're going to play. You talked about being the moral opposition. What does that mean?
Well, I really have little interest in playing partisan politics when I'm in the legislature, and that means that I will, of course, put forward ideas. I hope that they will be accepted by others. Similarly, when other people put forward ideas with which I concur, I'm going to be supporting them, regardless of whether they are New Democrat ideas or Conservative ideas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haverstock.
You're very, very welcome, Holly.
And in Saskatoon, Roy Romano, congratulations, Mr. Premier-elect. You've worked very hard for this.
Thank you very much. I did indeed. But it's not my result. It's the result of the people.
Well, there's little doubt what the voters wanted tonight, Mr. Romano.
Pardon me?
There is very little doubt what the voters wanted. You have a sweep here.
Yes, well, I think that the voters I'm sorry, somebody's cutting in here on Holly. I cannot hear you.
You're having difficulty hearing me?
Yeah, somebody's cutting in with other instructions. But I think you said we have a sweep, and I was saying that the issues in rural Saskatchewan and urban Saskatchewan were the same. The record of the government, I mean, the taxation level, farm gate problems, 4,000 farmers demonstrating in Rosetown indicates that it's not working. So to me, I'm hoping that what this election indicates is that any of the divisions, which I never believed existed in any event between country and rural, are at an end. We're all in the same boat together now, and I hope that from tonight forward, we're going to be reaching out and extending a helping hand one to the other, regardless of political belief.
What kind of government are you going to give the people of Saskatchewan?
Well, I'm going to give a government which I hope has a vision based on community and the strength of the community and the values of cooperation and sharing, because I think this is the only way we're going to overcome these tough problems that we have. But I also hope that we're going to give them honest government, sensible government. There will be very, very tough decisions to make. I'm not so sure whether we're going to be able to do all of the things which I hope that we can immediately, but we're going to be able to accomplish them as soon as possible. And I think that we are going to, the one promise I make is this: we are going to deliver a government every bit as good and as honest as the people of this province.
The PST, should I stop paying it tomorrow, the expanded PST?
Well, I'm going to go to my local restaurant and say, look, the PST doesn't work anymore. There will be some administrative confusion, I have no doubt about that, but it shouldn't be beyond 2 or 3 days, and we'll make adjustments appropriately. But the point is this, Holly, that we hope to call the session into sitting sometime in the first 2 weeks of December, and we'll bring in legislation which will make it retroactive to midnight, October 21. So talk it over with your retailer, but I think it's not going to be on.
You know you've got a big job ahead of you. You talked about how you had to open the books before you could do much. What's your first priority as leader?
Well, there are 3 priorities. One is open the books, because we got to know how bad or how good the situation is. Number 2 is the farm gate crisis. There's another rally of farmers on October the 24th. I'd like to see whether Premier Devine would join us, or whatever the best game plan is, to try to get more money and get changes to farm programs. Well, that's a second priority. And thirdly is jobs. Got to kickstart the economy. That's where I hope the PST thing will make some difference.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Now you and Alan Blakeney can get out and do some boogieing.
Well, not me. I'm not a boogier. I'm off to Regina right now, actually. So I hope to, if all goes well, to be in Regina in about an hour's time.
Okay. Well,
take care.
Do take a second to celebrate. Thanks, Mr. Romano.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, Roy Romano, excited, and I also think, David, maybe a little apprehension about the job ahead. But let's take a look at what hasn't been decided yet. Some very tight races, like this one in Ben Goff Milestone. 23 votes separating Judy Bradley and Rodine.
Only 3 polls to report.
And in Moosomin, this seesaw going on all night. There it is again. Mary McGuire is back in the lead. The last time we looked, Don Toth was.
Yes, further proof of Mr. Devine's warning of what happens with the Liberals.
All right, and in Redbury, 47 of 49 reporting. We see that Walter Jess is ahead. Garrett, Associate Minister, is second, but there's just 44 votes separating them. Our panel will have some words on this scenario now, I'm sure. Well, let's go to them. Costa?
Sure, we have some more words on the cabinet scenario, Holly, and let's get to that right now. And last time we were talking about the cabinet, you were about to jump in on this one, Lauren Nystrom. Your thoughts on what the cabinet is going to look like under Roy Romano?
I think it'll be a smaller cabinet, certainly to begin with, probably 3 or 4 people fewer than Grant Devine had, maybe even 5 fewer. And the second thing, I think he'll draw from the experienced members. I think almost everybody in the cabinet initially will be from the existing caucus, or the caucus that was there before this election, with a couple of exceptions.
There's certainly a lot of evidence to suggest that in the past Saskatchewan has been over-governed in terms of cabinets size and all the various secretaries and whatnot to go with that. I think there is strong pressure to downsize the size of cabinet. I'm sure that will happen.
Yeah, he's going to have some people to keep busy. Who would you think would be the new ones? Kiawa, perhaps?
I think Kiwawa has a good chance, and I also think probably...
The prosecutor in the Thatcher trial.
Yeah, as Justice Minister, perhaps Janice McKinnon out of Saskatoon, and certainly somebody from the Yorkton-Melville area. We have 6 new MLAs there, and at least one of them, I'm sure, will be in the cabinet, perhaps even 2.
Who do you see as the agriculture? I mean, I'm doing the interview.
Go ahead.
Agriculture
I would say either Eric Upshaw, who is from Humboldt, or else Lauren Johnston from the riding of Kindersley, or perhaps even Ron Harper from Pelly.
Who will have the unfortunate task of doing finance, I wonder? Who wants that job?
I suggested earlier that they'd be looking for somebody who was only going for one term, and I wasn't really joking about that. You might look to somebody who's been around for a while and is looking.
Like who, Lauren Nystrom? Who?
How about Herman Rolfes?
Herman Rolfes is an idea.
I have no idea. That's a very, very difficult job. But agriculture would be very, very key. As I said, it could be...
Have you heard anything about finance?
Finance, no, I haven't. Ed Trzowski, I think, is a possibility.
He's been around for a while. Certainly may fit into your theory.
Certainly been the critic. Some of the cuts they're going to be having to make are going to come in the areas of education, health, that sort of thing, which is what leads me to think that maybe Herman Rolfes is a possible choice for that. He knows where the incisions could be made with the least political bleeding.
Let's switch gears here for a second. Let's talk about this opposition party, the Progressive Conservatives, with 10 seats. What is the future of this party? It's only been in power one other time in the history of Saskatchewan. Ken Waschuk?
Well, I think the party received a healthy portion of the vote, and is going to be the official opposition. It's very unfortunate for the Conservatives over the last 2 terms that they have become more or less and less of an urban party and more of a rural party.
Is it going to be around much longer?
Well, I don't see why not. It's been around for a long time, and there's no reason why not.
Costa, I thought tonight that we'd be sitting here talking about a few more Liberal seats than we are, and a few fewer PC seats. And at that point, I was going to draw the analogies with 1975, where, in fact, the PCs picked up 7 seats and the Liberals 15, but everybody knew which way the momentum was going. Right. It's still coming that way if you look at the popular vote.
The electoral system is very unfair in terms of first past the post. Sure. Here we have a difference in popular vote about 2% between the Liberals and the Conservatives, and yet the seat difference now is 9 and 1.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, thank you. We'll get back to that later. Holly?
Thank you, Costa, and those numbers certainly tell a story. We want to briefly point out that we've referred through the evening to 1982 when the Tories won 55 seats and the NDP 9. Well, if you took a look at those just a moment ago, you saw the NDP with 56, the Tories with 9. This indeed is Roy Romano's Monday Night Massacre. What are the headlines? What are the big stories tonight? Well, it is an NDP landslide, a sweep in tonight's provincial election. Our decisions desk called an NDP majority government just 20 minutes after the polls closed. There was very little guessing tonight. The New Democrats did it on their own with a total vote of more than 50%. That has only happened twice before in the history of the province. 1 out of every 2 voters went NDP in this election. Roy Romano won in Saskatoon-Riversdale, where he's come a long way since losing that seat in the 1982 election. Premier Devine won Estevan after trailing in the early going. And Linda Haverstock is the first Liberal elected to the House since Ralph Goodale. David.
That's right, and it's really is a total sweep, and it will be extremely interesting to see how, with looking back at previous sweeps the last 2 decades, how Mr. Romano will deal with this in terms of selecting his cabinet, in terms of the kinds of jobs that he gives them, and also how the opposition will work, because oppositions in this kind of position have a very difficult job,
They certainly do, and I'm sure that Mr. Blakeney would attest to that when he was placed in a very similar situation.
If Mr. Romano is going to talk to Mr. Devine, maybe Mr. Blakeney should talk to Mr. Devine.
Okay, David, let's take a look at what's happening in the city of Regina right now. We haven't been there for a while. 11 seats there now, and 11 of them have been decided, David.
That's
all
right,
NDP.
all NDP, a total sweep.
Looking specifically Regina-Wascana Plains, the only riding where there were 2 cabinet ministers, but there is no cabinet minister there now, unless, of course, Doreen Hamilton moves into cabinet.
Right. Cam McCannell was seen to be having a good shot of this, with Beattie Martin, sitting minister, bottom of the heap.
It's interesting that McCannell, after running twice and losing for the Liberals, at least this time he is in second place there. Regina Albert South, this is Jack Klein's seat, the Minister of Labour and Human Resources, and he has lost. He's at the bottom, and it looks a lot there like it did in Saskatoon, with the NDP at the top, the Liberals coming up the middle, the Tories running last in ridings like Regina Churchill Downs, where Ned Shillington has
This is the same distribution, except, of course, there the Liberals have far fewer votes. Similar here in Regina Elphinstone, Liberals second, but far fewer votes, no threat.
Helen Blakeney's old seat staying NDP, of course, tonight. Ed Trzowski.
Right, again, commanding lead.
And the Tory Warren Rhodes at the bottom. And Regina Rosemont, it's just a pattern that's repeated over and over in Regina and in Saskatoon.
So it seems to me
tonight.
that this is the kind of pattern which the Liberals can take some heart from when they think about the next election.
That's right. As Linda Haverstock said, they have spread their vote throughout the province. It didn't come from just one part of the province, and there it is in Regina Victoria, Regina Albert North, orange, red, and blue all the way down tonight.
That's right.
Regina Northwest, there's no break in the pattern. All the votes in there.
There are very few seats, indeed, where the Conservatives come second. I'm not sure I've seen any this evening. I mean, they're either at the top and a very few, or at the bottom.
They're not doing well. Okay, well, we've had a chance to chat about what's happened in Regina. Let's see what Cheryl Jackson for us has further north. Cheryl.
Well, of course, Holly, Saskatoon's the same story as Regina. The NDP have taken every seat but one, which was Linda Haverstock's seat, which was expected. They also gained a seat from a cabinet minister. Let's take a look now at the board. You can see the NDP elected in 10 ridings, the Liberal in 1, that's Linda Haverstock. Let's go to Saskatoon Wildwood now. This is a new riding. Pat Laurier took it rather easily. She's a councillor here in the city. She did quite well and took it by a fairly substantial margin. In Saskatoon River Heights, an upset here. Carol Tycroft, a newcomer to the scene, took it from Ray Micklejohn, who was the Cabinet Minister for Education. Saskatoon Eastview Haltane, Bob Pringle won his seat. In Saskatoon Idlewild, Eric Klein kept his seat once again. Let's take a look at Westmount. Janice McKinnon, a newcomer once again, no incumbent there. She took it very easily. Saskatoon Fairview, no surprise here. Bob Mitchell was expected to win that. You can see he did it by a very wide margin. Let's go to Saskatoon Broadway, and once again, no surprise, a very wide lead here for Pat Atkinson, who was declared elected in that riding. And in Saskatoon Sutherland University, once again, Mark Kanker is keeping his seat there. He'll be in the House. And in Saskatoon Nutana, another logical win here for Herman Rolfes, well in the lead there, and an NDPer who's been around for a long time. So the NDP have got to be very happy with what they've done in Saskatoon, Holly.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. Well, there are big decisions being made tonight, but Ed Sebastian, who's with the Star Phoenix and the cartoonist there, reminds us all that we might take a lighter look at this as well. Let's see how Ed illustrates what has unfolded in the province of Saskatchewan tonight. Ed?
Well, the idea that I was toying with earlier still has some validity, and what has happened is the evolution from this to get some action into it. And this is what you'll see in the Star Phoenix tomorrow morning, or readers will see when I get it finished. And there's a lot of action there. Roy's comment is, now, this is a steamroller, Grant. And perhaps it's a little bit painful for Mr. Devine, but I think it captures the essence of what happened here tonight.
Okay, Ed, thank you. We see Linda Haverstock running alongside or riding alongside, and Grant Devine flattened. I guess that tells it all in pictures, doesn't it? Let's go to Yorkton now, in that area where the Tories held 6 last time. David, the Tories don't hold any right now.
Where the red wave began earlier this evening.
Okay, let's look specifically at what happened in those. It's orange tonight everywhere. Clay Serby running for the NDP and being elected there. And in Pelly.
Same thing, Harper leading, and here we have
Harper
a case
elected.
where the Conservatives second, but the Conservatives very strong in the last election.
Kelvington Wadena, Cabinet Minister, Sherwin Peterson, Minister of Highways and Transportation, going down there to Ken Clues, and in Kenora, another cabinet post there, tourism. We see that Darrell Cunningham has been able to defeat Lauren Kopelchuk.
That's right. The Conservative support seems to have hung on a bit more there, but certainly not enough to win.
No, it hasn't. They've lost all of those ridings that they desperately needed to win. They have even lost Grant Schmidt's seat.
Yes, that's right. See, the lead in all of these is far superior to what it was last time when the Conservatives were winning. There was often fewer than 100. The lead is just much stronger.
63 votes, exactly. Yes. It certainly tells us a story up there.
Yes, that the whole momentum of the election toward the NDP has just been quite an incredible strength and evenly cast across the province.
Evenly cast. There were a couple of mayors running there, the mayor of Yorkton, the mayor of Kamsack, so even personal popularity couldn't translate into votes when you've got such a tremendous movement and the momentum all going to the NDP.
It is a vote for a change, and people in each constituency, you have 66 mini elections in each constituency. You have to decide in that constituency how best can they register that desire to see change, and so they're voting.
That's right.
there.
Well, people did register a desire to see change. They did that where Cheryl Jackson is tonight to give us some more results. Cheryl?
Well, Holly, the NDP have made a clean sweep of the north. They had 4 of those ridings before, and they've taken 4 more. Let's take a look at the final results. NDP have taken all 8 northern ridings. Let's look at those ridings now. We can see in Meadow Lake a devastating loss for the Progressive Conservatives. George McLeod, Health Minister, has lost it to Maynard Sontag of the NDP. In Turtleford, once again, a seat held at one time by Colin Maxwell, gone to the NDP. Former MLA and once again MLA Lloyd Johnson. In Nipawin, here we have Tom Keeping has taken it. There was no incumbent there. In Shellbrook, let's go to Shellbrook now. Shellbrook Torch River, and Jack Langford has taken it. Once again, a sitting member has lost his seat in Shellbrook Torch River. In Prince Albert Carleton, Myron Kowalski kept his seat by a fairly substantial margin, and in Cumberland, no surprise here. We expected Keith Goulet to win, and he did it with big numbers. Prince Albert Northcote, once again, Eldon Laudermilk has retained his seat there. He'll be going to the House for the NDP. And in Athabasca, no surprise once again, Fred Thompson was expected to take that seat, and he did it. He's held that seat for the last 4 terms. So, Holly, as you can see, the NDP are very happy here behind me in their headquarters, and they must be very happy they have the entire northern ridings to themselves. Holly.
Thank you, Cheryl. We're going to go now for some final thoughts from our campaign reporters, people like Alethea Foster, who really dedicated the last month to covering this election. Alethea?
Well, Holly, this has to be the Conservatives' worst nightmare, something they definitely hoped would never happen. The last results we had 56-9-1. Being in the single digits has to be a body blow to the Conservatives. We saw what happened back in 1982 when the Conservatives swept in and left the NDP with only 8 seats. It took them 2 elections before they could build up again. So for the Conservatives, it means some very serious, major sitting down, an attempt to restructure to ensure that this party doesn't disappear before the next election.
Thank you, Alethea. The future of the Tories in Saskatchewan most certainly in question tonight. Let's go for some comment on the Tories tonight with Costa now on the panel.
Okay, thank you, Holly. And there's a question about the Tories' future and also a question about the Liberals' future. 1 seat. Bob Crow, you were listening to Linda Haverstock's speech earlier, and you said, Maya helped her write that with thinking 8 or 9 seats in mind. What happened tonight to your party?
Well, what obviously happened was the first past post system. Our vote was a mile wide and an inch thick out there, and it's a simple problem. We're in a rebuilding process. She did a marvelous job of rebuilding the popular vote and the party's position across the province. But obviously, as she mentioned there, it's simply a situation of our vote being too strongly concentrated in the city, and we're running against the NDP steamroller in the cities.
Gentlemen?
Well, I think what he's saying is right. The Liberal vote is mainly in Regina, Saskatoon, other urban centers, and that's where the NDP is the strongest as well. The other thing, too, of course, the Conservative vote is concentrated in some of the rural ridings, particularly in the south of the province. So with roughly the same popular vote, about 2.5% more as it now stands, they win 9 or 10 seats, and the Liberal Party wins only one riding. But that's the way it goes in the first-past-the-post system.
It's going to be very difficult for Linda to maintain any kind of momentum being all alone in the House. I'm sure you all would have preferred had she got 3 or 4 seats, the roll might have been on, but she's right where Ralph was in terms of seats in the House, where Ralph Goodale was.
Certainly, she said that in the speech.
Yeah.
She wished there were more than one. Okay, thanks, panel. Holly?
Thanks, Costa. Well, our reporter Art Jones knows a lot about Liberal policy, and he's met a lot of Liberals over the last few weeks following their campaign. Art in Saskatoon. Hi, Art.
Hello, Holly. The mood here in Saskatoon is surprisingly upbeat, and I think that's basically because the Liberals have managed to increase their popular vote by such a huge amount. They had expected some breakthroughs in parts of the province, in the old Liberal L especially, in the riding of Maple Creek, and possibly Kindersley as well. And they have been hoping for gains in the riding of Melfort. But as I said, the mood here is surprisingly upbeat, and they're looking at this as being the first step in the long road to recovery for the party.
Well, I suppose, Art, coming so quickly as we have off an election in BC where the Liberals formed opposition, that would have buoyed expectations here. They didn't quite do it. In fact, they came quite a way short of that. Nonetheless, they do have their leader in the House, and they really did increase in that total vote.
Yes, they did, and I think they had that high expectation as a result of the BC move by the Liberals there. But I think the NDP steamroller, as our cartoonist pointed out, was just too strong in this election. The anti-government vote was so strong that it all went toward the NDP. And even though Haverstock was saying, let's choose an opposition, she was saying that halfway during the campaign, she was saying, let's choose an opposition, vote for me, and I'll give you the best opposition possible. The voters decided they wanted to get rid of the government, and they went with the best within you how, giving the NDP a very strong majority.
All right, Art, thank you very much. Okay, and David, the Liberals putting a lot of faith in what Linda Haverstock can do as she enters the legislature, I'm sure.
Yes, well, you can't expect too much of one person, but I think that Linda Haverstock has a great deal of energy. She's shown that she has a great deal of sustained energy.
She certainly does. Let's take a look at what's happening in the South, and we'll look at Liberal votes and NDP votes, and the easy ones to pick out are the NDP votes.
Yes.
Elected or leading in the South in 10 ridings. Coppell, Lumsden, David?
That's right. Well, here we have the NDP with Murray leading, or having declared a winner, and the Conservatives running last, and this was Gary Lane's seat.
Gary Lane not around, but who knows if Gary Lane could have held that seat under current conditions. John Penner for the NDP and Swift Current, Pat Smith's seat. Pat Smith not running this time, and I'm sure she would be sorry to see this go to the NDP.
In Weyburn, we see another minister who has been defeated, Lauren Hepworth, and the NDP has won that seat as well.
All right, Lauren Hepworth having a tough time having to be responsible for the finances of the province, and we see the NDP gain in Indian Head, Wolseley.
Graham Taylor's seat. Graham Taylor went to be trade commissioner in Hong Kong. A lot of opposition and unhappiness about patronage or perceived patronage in the government.
That's true. There you have it. Okay, in Shaunavon, this was an interesting race. At one point in the evening, we had Jerry Roos for the Liberals up at the top there, and he's down at the bottom right now.
That's right. 3 hours can make a difference.
It sure can. Glenn McPherson elected there. Moose Jaw Waccamaw, no change
here from what we saw earlier this evening. Very historic NDP seat.
Yes, as is this. Glenn Hagel winning in Moose Jaw Palliser for the NDP tonight. Souris-Cannington, let's take a look there. This is very interesting.
This was Eric Bernstein's seat.
Eric Bernstein's seat, and some people wondered if there might be a backlash because Senator Bernstein voted for the GST. Well, it didn't hurt him in Souris-Cannington, but Souris-Cannington is the riding in 1986 where the PCs had the biggest plurality. So with that on their side, there they are.
Once upon a time, it was Liberal.
Yes, and so Thunder Creek, we look at Rick Swenson, who has maintained his seat, a cabinet minister there.
A rare victory this evening.
Maple Creek, this does surprise because the last time we looked, which was quite a while ago, Jack Goshen, I don't believe was leading, but Jack Goshen follows Joan Duncan as the MLA in Maple Creek. Harold Martin's in Morse, another Tory. So we've talked so much about Tory defeats, but there are Tory victories.
There are some who have built well, and their support has lasted as few as those may be.
Well, very much to their credit that they can do it on a night like tonight. Judy Bradley, Ben Goff Milestone with a lead of 77 at the moment.
Narrow lead, one poll yet to report.
And this is the seesaw battle of the evening.
Seesaw. I've just been handed notice as they're trying to locate some missing boxes.
Ooh, there's an interesting aspect to the campaign. This one, back and forth as well, these two seats. Moosomin.
Incumbent minister defeated, NDP elected, and last election it was a Liberal, Ralph Goodale.
Okay, a lead of just 59, so that's interesting. Maybe there'll be a recount there. Let's go to Estevan now, where we understand Roy Romano told us he wasn't going to boogie in Saskatoon. We're told Grant Devine is dancing, and there he is in Estevan. Well, that isn't a boogie, but it's pretty nice. All right, a special moment for Grant and Chantel Devine. We're going to go up to Cheryl Jackson now as we get close to ending our program. Cheryl, we want some more final results from the part of the province you're looking after tonight.
Well, Holly, we're looking now at the Park Belt region, the central rural ridings between Regina and Prince Albert. Very important ridings for both parties. The NDP have taken 11 of those seats, and the Progressive Conservatives have 4. Let's go now to some of those ridings you can see in Last Mountain Touchwood. Dale Flavel has beat Arnold Tusa, and he is now the sitting member there. In Kelsey Tisdale, Neil Hardy in second place. He didn't beat Andy Renault, who is now the sitting member for Kelsey Tisdale. In Bigger, Grant Whitmore for the NDP is now the sitting member. In Kootenai-Floyd-Minster, Vi Stanger has beat out Michael Hoffner, another Tory seat lost. In Canistino, Armand Roy once again taken a seat from a sitting member in the Progressive Conservative government. Rosetown, Elrose, there was no incumbent here, but the NDP managed to take this seat. Quill Lakes, this was an NDP seat before. Murray Koski has kept it. This will be his 5th term as an MLA. In Redberry, John Garrich in second place. Walter Jess from the NDP took it from him. In the Battleford, no surprise here really, Doug Anguish, a former MP, has retained that seat. And in Humboldt, Eric Upshaw has kept his seat as well. In Melfort, Carol Carson of the NDP has taken this seat. This was Grant Hodgins' seat of the PCs. And in Wilkie, John Britton. Now here's a PC, this PC person has kept his seat. Kindersley, once again, a seat retained by the Progressive Conservatives. In Arm River, Jerry Muirhead has managed to keep his seat. There was some question about that earlier on. And in Rosthern, Bill Newdorf has kept his seat. He's been the Minister of Social Services, well-liked, well-respected minister, and he's managed to keep his seat.
All right, Cheryl, thank you very much for everything you've provided for us this evening from those ridings in central and northern Saskatchewan and in Saskatoon. Good night.
Good night, Holly.
Okay, now we want to go up to the Saskatoon Star Phoenix, where I understand some people are sitting at their computers pondering the results tonight, wondering what they might be writing as editorial writers in the newspaper tomorrow. And we're going to be talking to Deanna Herman and Les McPherson there. Hi, what exactly are you two thinking about saying tomorrow?
Well, I think we're wondering whether the theme should be that it's been a big NDP sweep or whether it's been a Tory ouster. I think the New Democrats are in very many ways fortunate because they capitalized on many years of conservative improprieties, and the voters had just had enough, and the NDP were the logical alternative.
As well, I think we'll be looking at the fact that in the future for this government, that the public can probably forgive any policy mistakes or maybe some experimental decisions that don't turn out. But I think that they won't be able to accept any more unethical behavior or corruption or payoffs, cushy jobs, those kinds of things.
If there's any solace for the Conservatives out of this, it will be that the next 4 years might be a good 4 years to be in opposition. It's going to be a daunting task to govern this province for the next 4 years, and the NDP have their work cut out for them.
Thank you both very much.
You're welcome.
We're going to go now to Nancy Rose in Saskatoon. Nancy, who's been covering the NDP campaign. Nancy, it's finally over. What are your thoughts tonight?
Well, I'm obviously here with a bunch of very happy people. That goes without saying. After all, the NDP have had a landslide. But I have to say that despite the cheering you hear behind me, that's the first cheer I've heard in, I think, about 20 minutes. And there's not the air of celebration and booging here that I really expected, the big blowout party. And I think there's two reasons for that. I think one is that they expected that. You could almost feel it in the last week of the campaign. All the people in the campaign van were revising their estimates upwards of the number of seats that the NDP were going to take. And above all that, I think there's also an awareness of the big task facing them, that huge provincial deficit, which may well handcuff any government that tries to address any of the problems that the province is facing. But I think, they seem to be winding up a little bit now, so maybe they are going to start that party after all.
Okay, Nancy, you know, I wonder, as Les McPherson was saying just a moment ago, whether they're also considering if this was a defeat of a two-term government, which seems to happen in Saskatchewan, or if it really was an election of the things that Roy Romanow said he stood for.
I don't think you'll have anyone here who will say that this was the NDP by default. They all think that Roy Romanow went out here and won this vote. They point, for example, to the NDP increase in the popular vote, and I think they will concede, obviously, that there was an anti-government vote, much of which went to the Liberals. But at the same time, they think this is something that he went out to the farming areas. He campaigned for it very, very hard, told farmers that he was not going to go down to Ottawa and sing When Irish Eyes Are Smiling with Brian Mulroney, said that this Ukrainian boy was not going to do that. That always got a laugh, but it was always something that he hammered home very much, that he was someone who was going to stand up to Ottawa for the farmers. And I think that that definitely won him some votes, and they feel that was what maybe got it in the bag for them.
Thank you very much, Nancy, for your work on the campaign and for this. Let's take a look at how the leaders did individually now, beginning with Roy Romanow. Saskatoon, Riversdale, with all of the polls reporting, well, he has a bigger lead, I guess, even than Grant Devine had last time in Estevan. David?
That's right. I mean, it's secure. I don't think he has to look over his shoulder.
He doesn't. Grant Devine was looking over his shoulder a little bit tonight, but that's all over for him, re-elected there. And re-elected 686 vote lead. He still had a race, didn't he?
He had a race, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, I think he can claim that he's overcome that kind of direct opposition in his own constituency.
Okay, Linda Haverstock gaining her seat there, 1,400 votes. That's pretty comfortable. And from the look at the leaders, we're going to take a look at what color this province of ours is this evening. I think we have a fairly good idea what it is. Do you see some NDP orange there, David? A little bit of Tory blue?
Yes, a lot of NDP orange there. And on that point, it's interesting, the poor old Last Mountain Touchwood can hold its head high. It again voted for the party forming the government. It's done that since 1944, so it becomes our bellwether constituency, or continues to be.
All right, Linda Haverstock's riding didn't jump out at us, but it was there, that Liberal seat. Let's go to the panel now for some final thoughts from them tonight. Costa?
All right, thank you, Bob Crow. Happy to have someone in the legislature, but certainly disappointing night for you.
Well, in fact, very happy with the popular vote results, and I think we're really well positioned for 4 years down the road. We're going to be making some breakthroughs. As you can see, our vote is concentrated in that urban area.
We'll have to wait and see. Ken Waschuk, disappointing for the Tories?
Disappointing, but a party with 26% of the vote and strong opposition has got lots of work to do. It's mainly going to be in the cities for us.
Lauren Nystrom?
I'm very pleased. It went quite as much as I thought it might. I was predicting about 54 seats. We're going to have about 55 or 56, so it's a good solid majority, and it's spread right across the province, and that's also very good.
Okay, I'd like to thank you all for your thoughts tonight and joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having us.
Holly?
Thank you, Costa. Let's look at what happened in Saskatchewan overall. What did the voters want tonight? Well, they wanted to elect 55 MLAs who represent the NDP. They're leading in one for a total of 56 tonight, 9 for the PCs, 1 for the Liberals. As we said earlier, shades of 1982. Okay, total vote, the NDP at 51%, the Tories at 26%, the Liberals at 24%, big losses for the PCs, gains for the Liberals.
Holly, this is where it's different from 1982 because we have over 51% of the popular vote for the NDP and the rest of the vote divided almost equally between the two other parties.
That's right. Grant Devine said he was worried about this very thing happening.
And he had every reason to, it would appear.
It's interesting to see that the NDP total vote has gone up. With 45% in 1986, they couldn't win. With 51, they can win in such a big way.
It's very rare under our system ever to have any vote much higher than that. So it's a very definite decision on the part of the electorate.
There we see on our mini board that latest number, 56 seats for the NDP, 9 for the PCs, 1 for the Liberals, not as much as they would have hoped, but they do have something to build on at this point.
Good.
All right, David, we'll thank everyone who was with us this evening. We certainly want to thank our viewers for joining us, for staying with CBC Saskatchewan. We want to thank our panel, our analysts from each of the parties who came down, I think some of them knowing that they were looking at defeat. Let's take one more look at Estevan before we go this evening. The 12th Premier of the province, Grant Devine, his wife Chantel, being a good sport down there in Estevan, staying with the people who supported him. I'm sure he must also feel like leaving, perhaps getting a quiet moment, which he hasn't had for at least a month.
I'm sure that all of the leaders will, well.
All right. Thank you all very much for being with us. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you.
We appreciate you being with us. Good night.
This is CBC Television.
CBC NewsHour has more news for you weeknights at 6.
Hello, I'm Maureen Taylor. Hope you'll join us weekday mornings between 6 and 9 on CBC Radio for the morning edition. It's news, information, analysis. Sometimes it's a chuckle. It's always interesting radio. Do join us.
News can break anytime, anywhere in the world. When it does, CBC News World is ready because our prime time is 24 hours a day, every day. CBC News World, where news comes first.
We're on the road again to the Chignik Lodge in Newfoundland, where if you're not there by 10, the parking lot will be blocked right tight.
Time was coming when I was going to have to sit in a rocking chair and knit all the time, or get out and do what I want to do. What I want to do is get into the music. And that's what I did.
Minnie White, Newfoundland's First Lady of the Accordion, on the road again, Tuesday at 7:30, 8 in Newfoundland.
She looks like your mom.
Yeah.
How do we learn languages?
Mama.
Yeah, come mama.
No problem. The brain seems to absorb as many languages as you will expose it to.
Devrait systématiquement accroître ses relations avec le Mexique. J'ai besoin de légumes pour mon presentation.
It's literally immersion.
It was the scariest day of my life. I'm talking more in French than I ever talked in English.
You must have been a bilingual baby. Wednesday on The Nature of Things with David Suzuki.
We have more news for you on CBC News Final tonight at 11.
Monday, October 21st. Tonight on The National, the NDP takes Saskatchewan.
The United Nations says Brian Mulrooney could be the next Secretary General. And on the Journal, the rising fortunes of the NDP. Now with Roy Romano's Saskatchewan victory, how will 3 NDP governments change the country's agenda? The National with Peter Mansbridge.
Good evening. The people of Saskatchewan have spoken, and once again in Canada, the word is NDP. Just 4 days after a big NDP win